I ain't seen nothing on live, so I just decided to go live myself. See if I can get a little group going. Everybody talking about crazy stuff, man. I ain't trying to get in that crazy stuff. Ain't nobody in here anyway. Everybody there talking about that crazy stuff, man. I ain't trying to get on that crazy stuff. Man, it's like, man, what y'all talking about, bro? All right, we get it. Trump's president. We get it. All right, we get it. Hunter Biden's getting pardoned by. I mean, obviously. I mean, I would pardon my son out this mud. I mean, we're all criminals, so we got to stick together, right? Doobie 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 doobie. Ain't nobody in here, y'all. I'm just sitting here waiting to see if anything pop off tonight. I ain't got nothing else to do. I'm gonna call it a night early.
Securitization. The process of homogenizing financial instruments into fungible securities, so that they are sellable on the securities market. When you sign a mortgage note, it comes under UCC Article 3. After securitization, it comes under Article 8. Under U.S. law, securitization is illegal because it is fraudulent. Instruments such as loans, credit cards, and receivables are securitized. Enron was involved in securitization, and someone brought charges against them. But almost all large corporations are doing it as usual business. However, the banking system and the government are also doing it. Gene Keating brought a RICO suit against a bank, but it was thrown out. But he would have done better now that he knows more about it. It is all accounting, whether it is banking, civil or criminal court. I submitted the FASB regulations. FAS 125 Securitization Accounting, FAS 140 Offsetting of Financial Assets and Liabilities, FAS 133 Derivatives on Hedge Accounts, FAS 5, FAS 95. These are the resource materials for understanding this process. The note is not under a negotiable instrument anymore, it is a security. All the banks follow these standards. They set up GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. The banks are mandated by Title 12 U.S.C. to follow GAAP and GUS. They have a local FASB and an international IFASB. They also cover derivatives. FAS 140 relates to UCC 305, 306. If you want to instruct them on how to do offsets, you have to refer them to FAS 133. If you don't know the accounting regulations, you can't give them the proper instructions for settling and closing. What you really want is recoupment. Recoupment, 1. The recovery or regaining of expense is applying the set-off so you can get back what you gave and what you are entitled to. 2. The withholding for the equitable part or all of something that is due. This is all equitable action in Admiralty-style instruments. Blacks. I owe you a memorandum acknowledging a debt. See also a due bill. Due bill. See I owe you cite draft. A draft that is due on the bearer's demand, or on proper presentment to the drawer. Also termed a demand draft. A draft is an unconditional order signed by one person, the drawer directing another person, the drawee, to pay a certain sum of money on demand or at a definite time to a person, the payee, or to bearer. This is colorable. Who is holding the debt? A due bill is like a cite draft. They are not saying from which perspective it is a debt, from theirs or yours. The party receiving the IOU is the debtor, because the IOU is an asset. It is an instrument, and you are the originator. You have monetized their system with your signature. An IOU is an asset instrument, not a liability instrument. This is one of the places where you have your perspective changed. Under the Constitution, the government was not given authority to create money. It is a power reserved by the people. Article 1, Section 10 restricted the states from making gold coins. So the corporate government has to rely on the deception of people to create money. So the way money is created is to have people sign an IOU, or promissory note. It is not a debt instrument to the one who created it. It is actually an asset. The creator can pass it on for someone else to use. It is negotiable unless it includes terms and conditions as part of a contract. The property belongs to the creator, and the holder is merely using it, and any proceeds that come from it should be restored to the creator. That is the power we have if we realize we have the authority to do this. The intent is to understand the regulations and to see how they are trying to deceive us to believe we are the debtor and the slave, and they are the creditor at all times. This is not true. We are looking for recoupment. Once we, the creator of the promissory note, have signed it and others are using it, recoupment means we want our property back or have the account set off. Recoupment in practice is a counterclaim in a civil procedure. That is how one does a recoupment. We did a counterclaim on the grounds that, with the county, you can do a set-off. You can use the financial liability of the accounting ledger to offset the financial asset if you have the right to do that. But you have the right to do that if you are the creditor on the liability side and the bank or lending institution is the debtor on the liability side. There is a duality here. The bank is the creditor on the receivable side or their asset side, that is the receivable. You are the creditor on the liability side or the accounts payable. You can use your accounts payable as an offset or counterclaim to the financial asset side, that is the receivable. The bank or the court is using the receivable side of the accounting ledger. That is what they are charging you with. On the receivable side, you have to pay the debt, because that is where the charge is coming from, since they are claiming to be the creditor like a bank collecting the mortgage. The mortgage side of the bank ledger is the bank's asset and their receivable. But on the liability side, because they sold our gold, we have the actual gold contract where they did this. This is not my opinion. We have $11.50 million gold bonds sold from the De Beers Diamond Company. They sold America's gold under contract to the Bank of China. This is not my opinion. The U.S. did not go bankrupt in 1933. What they did was sell all the gold under a gold contract to the Chinese government. So the U.S. had to give us an account payable as a cash receipt. FAS 95 tells us that when they do a credit to a transactional account, which is a liability account, on which we are the creditor, they give a cash receipt to the customer and a cash payment to the bank, because it is cash proceeds. In intermediate accounting, when you give them a promissory note, I gave a promissory note to a publisher for $1,700. They accepted it because I gave them the proper accounting instructions. I did another one to another publisher for over $3,000. They accepted initially, and then hired a collection attorney in one of the biggest collection agencies in the state of Ohio. They didn't send the note back because a payment tendered and refused is discharged. Also, any form of viable payment must be accepted. Almost anyone that you send a note to is going to be making a mistake if they send it back. There is someone here that sent a transaction to the IRS on a closed checking account. He got the canceled check back from the IRS. They said the check is no good because it is a closed account. but the transactional marks on the back of the check say otherwise. If it is a note put into a bank, it is a cash receipt to the depositor and a cash payment to the bank. So when the bank processed the closed check, the IRS.
Judge,
What's going on?
what's happening?
I was enjoying the whoever was reading. I was enjoying the story.
I'll send it to you. It's Securitization 101. I'm like vowing to read it at least twice a week, just so I can get a concept and then get it down, you know?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I was enjoying that.
It's I also say an article a day keeps the lawman away.
It can't hurt.
Hey. Yeah, so I wanted, like, cause you sent me those documents, right?
Right?
So you didn't even have to show up to court.
Didn't have to show up. Actually, I didn't refuse to show up, of course, but I received the citation for no registration. I was stopped for no registration. I wasn't speeding or anything. And then, of course, I didn't have insurance. And so I was cited for both of those and I was let go. And before the court date, now I will say I did sign that. I did sign that citation also. So I thought, okay, I need to challenge the jurisdiction. So I did that before the date. And they have an online portal. This is through a municipal court. So it was a city.
Right.
City police. So I submitted it about 2 days before the court date. I didn't do that on purpose. That's just, how long it took me to do that. And I submitted the jurisdiction, didn't receive a response. So the next thing I know, they text. So they had my phone number at this point, and they began to text me. And so one of the texts was, "You have a warrant now." And of course, I didn't answer the text, and I really didn't want to call, but I'm kind of boxed in at this point. So I did, and she said, "Well, we'll reset it." And they also sent a letter before I called saying they have a safe harbor. It's a safe harbor area. And since I have a warrant, I can appear safely. That's so contradicting and confusing to me. But
It sound like an okie doke.
it does. It did. I was like, yeah, no, I don't think I'm gonna be going that safe harbor.
Exactly.
So yeah, I didn't go to that safe harbor. And so what I did was went back, copied I did a screenshot of the previous emails, communications, and their text. Because when you send the email in, you get an automatic reply. So that was kind of a good thing, because the automatic reply, I didn't have to wait for a person to reply. It was evident that I sent something in. So I just copied all of that as evidence that, look, I did, send this before the court date. So it was not failure to appear. I thought it was failure on your part to respond.
Exactly.
Because if you don't claim the jurisdiction before I get there to pay something you say I owe, I'm not going 2 hours from home to do that and pay you too.
Right.
For something that I'm not clear on any longer. Do I have to have a registration? Do I have to have a license to, get a bank account, to do all of these things? That's where I'm at in my journey. Yep. So it worked out, but I will say I sent the bill of particulars. I only got the response, the automatic response that, something had been received through the email. And it took, I think it was like 3 to 5 months. I would have to look, but it's somewhere between 3 and 5 months for them to send me the dismissal. But it is without
Oh,
prejudice.
it
It
is
is
without
without
prejudice.
prejudice.
Right. Yeah. That's okay. I mean, they're not going to come after you. They could just come after you with the same charges, which is like I
Right.
got a nolle prosecuy, which is, I mean, for my understanding, it's the same thing.
Okay. I've never heard of that.
I mean, the nolle prosecuy is just no longer will prosecute, right? And
Okay.
they took I looked my court case up and it's gone, but who
So one
doesn't?
thing I did leave out is
Uh-huh.
that the municipal court sent I did say they sent a failure to appear, but they sent it to the DMV, to the state of Texas. So, well, anyway, so the DMV sent me a letter, and the fines were over $1,000. I believe it was like $1,078,
No.
and that I could not get my license renewed unless I paid that. So if I were stopped or anybody ran, I mean that's going to show up. So that was also dismissed. The warrant was dismissed, and then that the charges were dismissed. I can't even believe you say charges.
Exactly.
Charges for insurance and a no registration ticket. It seems bizarre, but that's what the judge put on there. They call them charges. So
Right. And what are they charging you with?
it's interesting. So it doesn't say I'm charging you with a citation. It doesn't say anything. It just says
You're
charges.
You're charged with a statute because the statute has a penal sum, or excuse me, a penal charge to it, right? It's all pecuniary. It's all money. That's why we're charging you like you charge your credit card, charge it to the account.
And there were no listed, and I'm assuming they would just go back and say, well, it's, what the citation was for. But that was my experience, my first experience, and I consider it a success. So
Hell yeah. I mean, at least it went smoother than mine, goddammit. How long did that take?
yeah, it was a blessing. It really was. So
How long did it take?
let's see. All in all, so I was issued the ticket in March. So that's how long it took. So you have 30 days from the time you get the ticket, usually, to go. So we'll just say May. We'll just give it May, from May. So however long that is.
Okay.
6 months.
6 months. That's not bad. That's actually pretty good. It's not a record, but that's damn well good. I mean,
Yeah.
considering mine took 3 years, right?
Right. That is wild. Yeah, my total was operating unregistered motor vehicle. It went up to $300, and no motor vehicle liability insurance was $400,
Oh no.
and then the failure to appear almost $400. So yeah,
Oh
that
no.
was a sizable amount.
Right, but did you see any of those amounts on the charging instruments?
No,
Right, they're never going to be on the instruments themselves. You've got to
this was
call.
from the Texas Department of Public Safety. That's a
You-
letter from them.
So they sent you a separate letter. It wasn't
Yes.
right, and then either that or you got to call them and they'll tell you the charges, but they're not on the charging instrument.
Well, it lists the offense description, and the first thing that they took off was the failure to appear in bail jumping, and then I guess it's about 4 weeks later I got the letter from the municipal court judge dismissing.
That's good. Like I was gonna try to go back and all that. If they don't sign the order, I'm just gonna, I don't know. I'm just gonna. I might.
So the interesting thing is that I have 3 docket numbers.
Yeah. Have you checked all of them?
I haven't checked any of them.
Check them, and like they might like dismiss that one, but open another one because I seen that with Big Walt that was locked up. You know,
Okay.
because he was filing stuff from inside the jailhouse, and he had like three different case numbers, and it's just wild.
Well, that's happened to me repeatedly in some private matters, like what they call, quasi criminal.
Right. It's all question.
And I've repeatedly no less than three case numbers, and they call it, oh, well, it was reported a felony. It's only a misdemeanor. And you're like, oh, this was a felony, but, and then, you've got three case numbers opened and you don't know where they are. I don't yet. I don't know I'm in that process. So
Just go to the county. It's like you'll find the case search on there. Like every I wouldn't say everyone, but everyone I've been to, you can find out how to get to the case search. And then there's research too. It's like search. A lot of them are registered with that. You can find all your court cases there.
now I can find basic cases. I was more referring to how do you find if there's been a bond opened
On the court.
and who's closing it is if it has and where's it going and why isn't there record of that?
That's how I mean. Like only way I would think is to get a FOIA and you just hope that they'll give it to you.
Because I actually did call the treasurer today in the county to ask, how do I recoup? I said, I want to know how to recoup a bond in my name and possibly in the minor child's name. And she said, well, you just get the county court. This is, it's Texas, so these are some of the names we use. All counties are different. But you call the county clerk or the jail, have them send the bond, and we'll issue you a check, or you can come pick it up. And she goes, it doesn't take long. And I thought, I didn't want to push it, but I feel like my bonds, not necessarily about the registration and what we were talking about just previous, but I feel like my bonds have been stolen or forged.
Yes, absolutely. Well, to me, it's going to have your name on there, right?
Right. Number one. Yeah.
It's going to have some sort of identifying number that's pertaining to you. It might not be your social, but it could be your driver's license number or something of that nature, But all of it's going to be linked back to your social, which links back to the Q-tip on the back of your social. Everybody forgets about the Q-tip on the back of your social.
And then she did say that, because one of the things I'm confused about is if you're falsely arrested and there's a bond, of course, you had to bond out. She said today that the PR bonds, they have record of. But unless it was a failure to appear, they don't have them. You have to go to the jail. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
but that's as far as I've gotten,
Someone else told me I had to go to the jail too, because I was like, "Can I get a copy of my warrant?" And she was like, "You got to go down to the jail." I said, "I ain't going down to no jail. They got the warrant. I'm not going down there." She said, "I don't know what to tell you, sir." I was like, "All right."
Well, now, and my situation was different, but I will tell you that in my experience, but I am white and I am in Texas, so it's different for everybody. But the records clerk has been very kind. I have found that the records clerk, I did not say clerks, I said records clerks, are always very kind.
I see. Right. Yeah.
But not clerks.
The clerk in the records office.
Yes.
Yeah. They're all nice. But like if you go in there with the sovereign citizen First Amendment auditor, I have rights, and you start yelling at them, then they have cause to kind of push back. you know? And I think that's what's the one thing wrong with the auditors is they're teaching people to go in there and fight and argue when all that's not necessary. Where you just
And it doesn't, I was so confused in the beginning of my civil matter, which is totally separate from the tickets that we were talking about being dismissed. But I was so confused and traumatized that I didn't even know what I was asking, but all I was getting is, you need to hire an attorney. You need an attorney.
right.
And I'm like, well, I've already spent my life savings on an attorney, and that didn't help. So
Right.
where do I get the answers, And people just start to fall apart. I totally understand it. So, but I don't think either one of those is beneficial. But I will say in the last 3 years, the data, 1,000 times more accessible, if not more. I mean, I don't even know how to put that into numerals.
What do you mean by the data? Your data?
Well, my data, courts data, any information, because I'm in a rural area and there's not even legal aid clinics or anything here. No library. The closest law library, is 45 miles away.
Right. Yeah.
And it only says open from 8 to 5. It is in the bottom of the courthouse.
Yeah.
And you've got the old retired attorneys that are waiting for the vulnerable to come in.
Yeah.
But,
It's
I couldn't even find documents on old cases to read. That's how bad it was when I started. Even on like texaslaw.org. It was very, but now you go on there and I'm amazed at how much the data has changed.
when you say the data saying, what do you mean by that?
It's so much more is accessible. I used to have to sit for 2 weeks to try to find an answer for a question. And, now all I have to do is put it in the AI and then it pops up.
Oh, yeah. The access to information is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, ChatGPT is a great paralegal.
Yes. But 2 years ago, it was a beginning paralegal.
Yeah. 2 years ago,
That maybe hadn't finished her whole class yet.
right. They hadn't booted the system up yet. But just to find
No,
court
but
cases,
it's
it's so
amazing.
easy now.
Mm-hmm.
Because you could feed it
It
what you
really
know,
is.
and then check against it too. You know. Yeah.
It's very helpful. And then just having access to people, who share a common, need. We all want to be freer. We all would like to be free
Right. Like I don't.
from 8 to 5 or 2 to 10, whatever it is. People can't even. It's sad to see the state of everybody, really.
Yeah. Like you said, like people you can talk to, because you're gonna try to talk to this. It's like they're like, man, just get a lawyer. I don't know what you're talking about. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love my family, and my family loves me, but they're like, Mom, just you do that. I'm going to work. Okay,
Yeah.
I will.
It's all trivial, man. I don't know if you've seen the videos that I posted recently about that movie, Interstate 20. And
No, but I want to see it.
it was I like to use the word revelating, but that's not a real word. We'll just say revealing, right? Because in the scene, the main character goes to this town filled with nothing but lawyers. Everybody in the town, the lady goes, all adults in this town are lawyers, right? So he goes to her. So if everybody's a lawyer, who runs the grocery store? Who's running the, who fixes your plumbing? You know, she goes, oh, those trivial jobs are done by people like you. the people who are awaiting trial.
And that's so true.
The people like you. I mean, it's right there in the movies, yo.
And I think it's so hard for people to embrace that it is a whole legion of people that think that way. That's
Yeah,
why
but
we can't get the information.
they're the minority though.
They are.
But they are amongst the majority because the majority of people think the same way that they do. We're in the minority in the way that we think. You know what I mean?
That's true. That's very true. Now, have you experienced any backlash in a courtroom yet for your social media?
No, I haven't. No,
Oh,
I
I
haven't.
have.
For real.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. Like I can't imagine because every email I send them is Mr. Difficult, so I know they know who I am. So. But tell me.
Oh, I mean, they stalked my social media and used the pictures as exhibits.
For what? What case?
Yeah,
The same case?
my family law,
See, that's family law. Yeah.
and tried to say that I was breaking the protective order. Well, once you say I'm breaking the protective order and you want to charge me either a fee or with a charge, it changes. It's not private anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I've been brought in court 6 times.
That family law court's another beast, though. I never had to deal with family court, though.
It is a beast.
That sounds like a beast.
It's an ugly beast.
Not to say that they ain't that all not beasts, but the family court, I mean, that tears families apart. So that's a whole nother level of beast, you know? It literally tears families apart.
That and the mental health and the probate in my county are all together in an administrative court, not even a district court. You've got it all in front of an administrator. And they literally think about elderly people, you know, that maybe have a little dementia or, you know, they're just not their same self.
And they think I got myself a government job. I'm doing good. You know?
It's something else.
I guarantee you, everybody who's working in that government building, they feel good about them. I got myself a government job, you know?
Absolutely.
I got myself good benefits, right? I mean, it's just like Lord of the Rings, where the king gives fealty to all of these lords, and the lords live like kings amongst the people, but they must do the king's bidding.
Yeah, it's not pretty.
The celebrities are that. They get to live like kings and queens, but they must do the king's bidding.
That's right. That's the whole thing that's unfolding. It's essentially the same.
It is. It is. But once you realize it, it's like, okay. And once they know that you know that, though, and you're not like just an NPC, just yes, because like I mean, I hate to keep talking about it, but like I've watched live court cases in other states, and they just do it differently, right? But in my state, where the court that I went to, I mean, the judge literally asked all 46 people the same line of questioning, and everybody just went up there and answered, yes, I understand. Yes, I understand. Yes, I understand. Yes, I understand. And it's just amazing. The same questions.
I've had to go for 26 hearings in the last 3 years.
I'm at 5.
And during those hearings, you would go in, you know, and there would be, and this is a small court. It's not a large court like I see, you know, most courts. But like I said, it's an administrative court. And so, there may be 2 rows of inmates, or, I say inmates, but, people in jail. And they're lined up. I mean, and they have to stand up if they don't, it's, what are you going to do? Argue when you're in that position?
You don't argue. You
You
never argue. That's the thing. You never argue. But continue. I'm sorry.
Well, they just present whatever they want, ask them what they're going to do, and then send them back.
Yeah.
And like you said, they're like, okay, yes,
You know when you're being railroaded. So, just get in there and get out. Don't start yelling and screaming with them because they got dudes with guns that's drag you into a dungeon. You know what I mean?
And the attorneys are walking in. These people have spent money, and they already know what's going on before they get there. Or if they don't, let me look. They don't know the children's name, or they don't know their own client's name, and it's unreal.
I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny though, because why would they? It's just another docket for them.
But if live cam ran from 8 to 5, or if court's in session, the camera's on, I don't think that would happen. They would even take our phones up.
Yep. They don't want them phones in there.
And I was threatened if I put anything on social media about the court hearing.
Objection. I thought I had a freedom of the press, man. Is this a private hearing? It's a private organization? I thought this was on public record.
The interesting thing about that was when I brought up my First Amendment, I was told that the First Amendment is secondary to someone's safety. But, okay, hypothetically, yes, I understand that statement. But when you've not harmed anyone, and it's a presentation that you might, well, we could just say that about anyone. They might get really mad if you're lying, or they might get really mad if you say something that's not true. But that shouldn't suppress your First Amendment.
Nothing should.
I thought that was very interesting that they used that. And my case is not the only one I've heard that in so far.
You got to think about what safety is, right? It's just like person. Like we think persons is a singular form of people. But safety, right? So what do you put in a safe? Things that you find or things that you have an interest in. Like to me, this is just a theory of mine, but safety is not having any to do with keeping you from harm or protecting you from danger. It's about protecting their interests and keeping their interests safe and locking that up in a safe somewhere in a bank because it's all money and commerce.
Right. That's a good point.
It's just another wordplay when they use the word public safety, because what's the public, right? I mean, when we get public debt instruments, that's an obligation of the United States. And all of those interests should be kept safe, so they put their policemen on the street, right, to make sure that all that revenue can keep going right where it needs to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Because my thing is this, man. I don't think there's been any law since the 1800s. It's all business.
1789 to be exact.
There you go. Exactly. Right? It's nothing.
Yeah.
It's no law. There's no constitution. None of that. It's just business, and the business has to be regulated. Right? But if you put yourself in a private position, I mean, that's the thing. Everybody's trying to separate themselves from it. And there's apparently a million ways to do it under the sun, right? Everybody's selling a different way to do it. But the only way to do it is to not have no contracts with them. Man, I mean,
And how do you rescind that contract?
I tried. I
You
tried to get.
challenge the contract.
Yeah.
You challenge their. Not to interrupt y'all. I'm actually trying to catch on to what's going on. Hey, everybody. First and foremost, appreciate you, Mr. Difficult. You put me up on a lot of game. And
Well,
if I may say, the simplest way you do that is by, how can I say this? Expressing it verbally. Like, for example, you can say my ex, well, the mother of my child, had, she basically tried to put me on child support. And learning it from you, Mr. Difficult, it all starts within the mailbox. If you accept that letter, correct? I call those letters solicitation. You know,
they are solicitations.
they want the contract with you. The jurisdiction starts when they don't get that mail back
Right.
because they assume, or they basically say, oh, well, he got it. Now we got you.
Right.
So the first thing I did when I saw it, oh wow, that's cool. I called the Title 4D program, and I let them know. I expressed basically saying that I'm going to deny your contract. I don't need it. I don't need you using my child or using my child for financial gain for the government, because I know that this is a voluntary program, and I'm a politely decline. I appreciate it though, and if any steps are taken furthermore, I can sue everybody personally for their assets. You know, because everybody has a benefit in that contract per se. Everybody gets a gain.
Right.
Everybody.
Right.
And on top of the fact, and I stated that would be aggravated identity theft because you don't have my information. How did you get that? How did you get my information and my address?
Well,
That's a great point.
you gave it to them, but they swindled you. They tricked you out of it. You know.
No, but that's okay. But then I asked, so I didn't contract with them. I didn't contact them. The mother of my child contacted them
I see.
to
I see.
place
You
me on
don't
this
have a
contract. To place
contract
me on
with
this.
her to
Yeah.
run your credit, to get into your
Oh,
finances.
but this is not to cut you off. When I'm telling you, I have you can say an ongoing case that I'm still trying to formulate the the proper defense on how to get it. You could say deleted off of just me. Lincoln County in North Carolina. When I'm telling you, since the get go, they didn't even let me speak. When they said my name, they was like, "How does this make you feel?" When I said, "Well, this has caused me anguish. We don't want to hear about that."
Well, why
That's
did that?
exactly what the judge said to me.
Then why
We
did
don't
that?
care about that. What was that?
So who asked you? How does it make you feel?
The what I call the fake judge,
Right.
the
But how are
magistrate.
you going to ask me how I feel, and then when I tell you how you feel, we don't want to hear about that as your response?
Yeah. So I like they. This was my favorite part when this last time I went, when I told them that I was here under intimidation and coercion, 4212 what subsection what 40 what U.S. Code 4212 intimidation and coercion, and I presented my birth certificate. When I'm telling you, I'm talking about the courtroom was full with at least 40, 50 people.
Yep.
And I told him, I'm like, you continue with this matter, you'll be in direct violation of my constitutional rights. I'm gonna need you to go ahead and state your oath of office, and then go ahead and present me some bonds. The that magistrate, if I'm telling you, you say another word, I'm talking about he was mad. I had the bailiff behind me like this dude got balls. I'm like you've been using my child for financial gain, and when I think it's Holmgren versus Holmgren, if I'm not mistaken, the one that says that child support is voluntary, that I don't need to pay. They lost it. They lost it. They didn't know what to do. They was like, you know what, we're gonna set this for trial.
You know why he lost it? It's because it's 40, 50 people in the audience.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh like, and you know what was so intriguing, that prior to this last court date, it was another judge, and this it plays a lot. It plays a lot when I started stating that they violated due process of law. They violated my 14th and my 15th Amendment. They was like, wait, what, how the heck does he know this? I'm like, so you're gonna sit here and tell me that they filed paperwork saying that I was here, but I was downstairs, and one of your bailiffs told me that you didn't have child support court. What do you mean? Today is that I had a whole manila folder full of documents, of paperwork, of everything. I sat there and I told him, it's today, January, such and such. He's like, yeah. I said, okay, well, on this paper it says I have to be in that courtroom. Okay, so he's like, but I can't let you go up there. This is for real. He's like, I can't let you go up there. I'm like, why not? I got to go up there to court. He said, nah, they don't have court today. Okay, so I'm trying to call the Title 4D program. I'm calling everybody. I'm talking. I called everybody. So by like around 12, they answered the phone. They're like, where were you at? I'm like, what you mean? Where was I at? I was downstairs trying to get up to the courtroom, and your bailiff told me that you don't have court. Oh well, we found you in contempt. We have a warrant out for your arrest. I was like, are you effing serious with me? And I lost it. I completely lost it. And that's when I started going hard in the paint. I started when like they detest me when they see me in Lincoln County in North Carolina. They hate me.
No,
I got
next
to the
time,
point.
next
I
time
got to the
instead of getting angry, bro, laugh.
no, but I did laugh when I started going there, start challenging their jurisdiction, start actually talking back. Because really, if you really pay attention to any hearing, they treat them like box, stick, and move. Next, come on, next. How much you gonna pay? Next, come on. Oh, 500. You got 500 for me. Next, you
Exactly.
got 300 for me. Next, until it got
Exactly.
to me. Oh,
Exactly.
this was the best part when he was like, I need you to go ahead proceed after the floodgate. I looked at him, no sir, we're gonna handle this matter, and I'm gonna stand on this side of the floodgate. He looked at me like, what the hell? What? I said, because I know it. As soon as I go in there, you got jurisdiction over me. We're gonna give you a court-appointed lawyer. And this is when I broke it down. I said, so you're gonna give me a court-appointed lawyer when he's working with you against me and he's representing me? I don't think so. I don't fucking think so. Excuse my language. Everything unfolds. Everybody's looking at each other like, wait, what? Oh my God, what's going on? When they say my name, I'm here to, not my name, the entity, my all caps entity. I'm here to address the matter. Who are you? I'm here to address the matter. What's your name? You can call me Robert. What's your last name? I don't say that.
Well, when
I,
they asked me what's my name, I said I was given the name Nigel, right? And
the,
what's your
the,
last name? I don't have a last name, man.
they, everything falls under you basically taking that responsibility. If you have no injured party, if there's not the state, the judge, the counselor, the cop, if they do not have a valid written complaint with an injured party, there's no case. It's nothing to be presented to the
So like
court.
I threw all that stuff out, man. The injured party thing, I threw all that out because they don't work under. They're not a common law court, and that's a common law crime,
A Title III court.
right? And it's not a common law court, and they'll tell you it's not a common law court. So it's not a common law crime. They define their own statute, or
Yes, that's
Yeah.
very cool.
they literally define what a crime is in their own venue. So that's
No,
why they
but here's
laugh
the
at you,
thing.
man.
Not to cut you off.
Go ahead.
These lower courts, well, a lot of people don't. Well, I don't know if they know or they don't. They make their own statutes and policies as they go.
Chevron
It's,
deference,
it's,
bro.
it's, they do that. It's
Chevron
not a such
deference.
thing. They're like they can make so many rules in the same day you're in front of them, and you're like, what the hell? So if
I
where
watched
I'm
in
trying
the
to get to,
judge,
I'm
bro.
trying to
Like I
present
watched in
this
the
to
judge.
a higher court, a
I
higher
watched,
court. Because
bro.
when I told them, oh, I got child support off my credit report. My goodness, they was like, you got it off your credit report. I'm like, yeah, y'all know it was on there, right? Yeah, and y'all know it's illegal for it to be on there, right? They're like, wait, what? Yeah, I know that. Y'all should never shut me up that first day when y'all shut me up about how I felt about my child. You don't do that. We go hard in the paint over here. I don't. Everybody else can be, you know, a ticket for them. Not me. What I'm trying to do is sue them,
A ticket
get
for him.
interest. I need interest in my return. This is causing me injury. You get what I'm trying to say? I haven't seen my child in 3 years because they coach. I found out, oh my goodness, the things I found out about Lincoln County. They coach the mother of my child for me not to see my child. But yet, how am I supposed to provide for my child? I didn't consent to this contract.
How
You
old is your
put me on this contract.
how old is your
You've
young
never
one?
let me open my mouth since I got there until I started opening my mouth this year.
Brother, take a deep breath. How old is your child?
My child is 5. He just turned 5 November the 22nd.
And those are the glory years too, man. So I feel you, bro.
Yo,
And
you
it's like,
I
just
feel
said
you
you
too.
just said you just said the magical words though. You said, "How can I provide for my child?" Right. So there's a couple things y'all need to look at, right? Especially dealing with child support obligation. Where does it define support obligation?
I couldn't hear you. What you say?
I said, where does it define support obligation?
I don't think it does.
It doesn't, right? So you got to look at three things right now. So you got to look at congressional intent. Then you have to look at statutory construction and statutory interpretation. So if it's not defined, right? So what is obligation? So if they defined it and Congress didn't, that would be outside their delegated authority for them to say obligation means financial obligation. Right? Yeah, that's where you hit them.
Okay.
That's now you can start talking about Chevron, right? Because Chevron overturned was the administrative's capacity to define ambiguous terms. Now, can they go back and define what obligation means? No, they can't.
oh,
That's good.
That's beautiful.
Right?
I love that.
Man, what's good, bro?
Now. Giving you a hammer.
What's good? I like that.
Okay, so just for a second, I feel like in the family court, it's either child support or mental health. And I feel like what you're saying about child support pertains to the mental health. If you're not an authority, the physicians are the authority,
Well,
not
here,
the attorneys.
let me ask you this too, right?
That's a good point, though. That's a good point, Salty.
Going back to the congressional intent and everything else, how do you know child refers to baby? How do you know that child doesn't refer to the parent company?
Right.
Because parent can equal
Now
parent
you're
company,
talking
right?
legalese now.
Yeah, so how have you
You're
not
talking
defined
legalese,
parent
yes.
yet? What parent are they talking about?
It's not even legalese though, because even in programming, you have parent-child relationships, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
So
what is the
it's the
definition
same
of child
concept, bro.
in the intent of Congress? And what is the definition of parent in the intent of Congress? Do they
Right.
mean parent company or do they mean biological parent? This is the shit y'all got to start asking.
Start asking. Period. That's it.
Because there's two sides to this coin and you got to see both sides.
Correct.
Start asking or
Well,
start establishing. I mean,
Well,
is there a way to establish this
Well-
is my relationship with my child?
I'm feeling like if you ask questions,
Not-
that's a way to establish the truth, right? Because you're not gonna find
Right.
it from them. You got to start mining it from them. And you
Exactly.
get from them too.
But do it the private way. You know, you want to make sure that you mail it and keep record, take copies. The administrative part is going to be the key.
You're looking at clear meaning, right? So Supreme Court, when you dive into the tax codes, they're going to have endless cases that say, hey, they can't just say taxpayer, they need to define taxpayer. Right? So when
Exactly.
you take those things
Not to cut you
and you
off.
apply them to all the other statutory interpretations, then you
Right.
got fire in your belly. You can actually bring something to the table. They have to define clear language, clear meaning, what they mean and intend.
Right.
So that means basically, well, respectfully, in other words, a 1099 worker can't be on child support.
I'm telling y'all dive into employee and employer under that realization, like, what is the statutory interpretation? You're going to enter a whole new motherfucking realm.
Well,
Oh, I
like, so
believe-
to
I believe
answer
you.
your question, brother, like, I mean, to me, it's whatever the contract defines, you know? It's whatever the contract defines. Like, to me, the 1099 and all that, you're just assessing the taxes on on whatever money was made, quote unquote money was made.
Yeah, anywhere the liability
But
lands. So if you're dealing
but
with
North
court, you're
Carolina
dropping.
has a law saying that North Carolina has that specific law because somebody won a case here in North Carolina where you can't put somebody on child support because you can't add up their money. They're a 1099 worker. They're a personal contractor. It's not like a same W-2 job that, okay, you're getting paid $20 an hour. You're making, for example, $80,000 a year. They can determine that because your taxes say that. When you're a 1099 worker, I'm a 1099 worker. Like I haven't worked in a couple of months because of work, because it's cold, because I can't find
I would say
work.
this to that, bro. I would say this to that. You're gonna be taking that defense against like a whole team of lawyers. You know, the thing is, you use your social. I don't care
Well,
if
I don't use, I don't, not with 1099. You don't use your social. Not with
Well,
me. I don't use my social. I haven't used my
right?
social maybe like in 12 years.
Well, see, either way, you're still filling out your income reports wrong. Like when they come at you for your financial report, like you're not following the accrual method of accounting. You're doing cash method accounting. So that's where you're all fucking yourselves,
Well,
right? Because if you're
I
not
found out
doing,
that it's voluntary for you to pay taxes.
no,
There's no
that's
code saying that you
incorrect.
have to pay taxes.
So just like right, so with taxes, the tax codes are definitive. So you have to pay taxes on certain things, right? So when you dive into
You have
the
to pay
tax
taxes
code,
on wages.
so when you dive into the tax code, you need to define it properly. So since like we'll take income for example, like income is ambiguous in the tax code. You don't actually know what income is, but when you're dealing with other things inside the tax
That's
code,
one.
they're taxed. So it's not necessarily taxes voluntary. It's some things are taxed and some things are not taxed.
And that's the ambiguity, right?
Yep.
And they'll always write statutes plagued with ambiguity, the ones that really matter, so they can create revenue back to the what? To the Federal Reserve.
But I thought statutes weren't laws.
They're not laws, they're infractions, but they all have penal sums attached to them. All of them.
Right? And you
It's all
guys
about
got
money.
you guys got to start reporting that, right? So when you're dealing with a court, you're dropping a 1098-F, right? Well, you're not dropping it. The court's supposed to file a 1098-F, so you're doing a request. Hey, where's your 1098-F with your W-9? So I can tell the IRS where this liability, right, where this obligation landed. If they don't have that, then you're dumping a 211. You're whistleblowing to the IRS. Same thing with other companies. If you're dealing with utilities, cell phones, contracts, you're doing a 1099 NEC. Right? And if they don't provide that to you, who are you going to? You're going to go tell on them to the motherfucking IRS.
What was that form you just said for the cell phones?
1098F.
1098-F for court.
Okay, so where does
Fines, penalties, and
expressing
other amounts.
suretyship fall in?
The suretyship is nothing more than a body taking place of a debt. I mean, you could question that on insurance with bonds, like why are you taking the place of a debt when there's already insurance for the debt in the court?
Exactly. Come on, man. Damn.
I mean, that's what the bond's for. You could deal with child support alone. Why is child support coming at you when there was already a bond placed for non-payment?
Right.
Did they collect on that insurance for non-payment and then come for you to double dip?
So that would be title. That would be title 4A for what? Okay, title 4D and title 4A was that the loan that they took out for title 4D.
I mean, the original intent of Congress was never for the individual to be responsible for support. The original intent surrounding the Social Security Act was for state and state, administrative state, federal state, to enter a contract and provide welfare to the dependent child or family. So they're already well outside congressional intent, which would require a delegation of authority. If they don't have that, you're acting unconstitutionally.
Okay, yeah.
So how do you pull that bond? How do you pull that bond? And when I say pull, I mean disclosure, or even how do you get that from the court? Because they act like they don't know what you're talking about.
I mean,
Oh,
if
they
you're
do
not walking
those.
in there with your books, that's the big problem with everybody. That's just what I've been learning. That's been changing my game. Has been running my own ledger, right? So any asset, I'm ledgering at my house. I'm doing my own double entry bookkeeping. So when I walk in there, I have my ledger in hand. Where the fuck's the other party's ledger? Right? And why don't they have their ledger if they're bringing financial claims? That's hearsay.
And then you gotta you gotta ask for proof of claims.
Yeah, proof of claim. That's when you got to bring the accounting into place.
Okay.
It's all financial fucking instruments. So, say anything you ledger is obviously a liability. So you're putting it on your books. Where's the proof of that?
Right.
I like that.
I mean, you must have a lot of time, brother.
Yeah, he do. Yeah.
Motherfucker got his own legend, goddamn it. Shit, bro.
I've been learning it pretty good. I mean, Pastor's been running a class with this attorney, right? He's a tax attorney. He's taught us quite a lot, but running your own ledger.
I want to join that course. I want to join that course.
Sign me
I
up too.
seen one of those. I seen one of them books inside the Office Depot the other day, and it's real simple, guys.
Real simple.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna go get it because all it is really taking your time. Everybody think it's overwhelming, but all you have to do is every day before you end your day, just write whatever you spent inside of it. You start dealing with those simple numbers, right? And then everything else, it won't be complicated because now you'll see how it add up, and then you'll be able to play with the numbers. You'll be able to create. It's like Monopoly. It's just like Monopoly.
So say the utility company sends me a bill, right? So I take that bill because the paper is value. I got to take it off the paper. That goes into my fucking ledger. And there's two entries, double entry accounting. So what I can do once it's on my ledger is I can convert the receivable into a payable. And how do you use checks at the bank? Right? The ledger funds the check. You're doing the same thing with the bill of exchange.
That's why you got to call and verify a check, guys. Like, say if I give you a check and they say, well, it takes 7 days, you can have the branch manager call and verify the check right then and there to clear it or not, because they can call and see if the people holding the ledger, which if it's Chase, for example, that's who holding the ledger. What he's saying is he holds his own ledger.
Hold your own ledger. That's private banking. You got to do your own ledger. The ledger is the asset that funds the bill of exchange.
They even give it to you in the back of the checkbook.
So you're full. Okay, I get it. It just clicked in my mind. Sorry.
This sounds like
It just
the bill of
clicked.
exchange.
That is. Well, you got to get it off your ledger, right? You got to transfer value. So what do? You convert the liability in your ledger to a payable, and then you credit the bill of exchange. But you still have debit, or you still have a debit on your books. But once they accept the payment, right, that eliminates the debit. Now you've discharged your debt. That's how you do it.
So what if you're the creditor?
I can see why. Wait, go ahead. I'm sorry.
If you the creditor,
I'm just asking if you were the
coupon.
debtor and now you're the creditor.
No, you're running the debtor's books like you're a representative. You may be the creditor. That doesn't fucking matter. What fucking matters is that you do the correct bookkeeping on behalf of the debtor. What does it say at the bottom of your signature line on bank checks? Authorized representative.
Right.
Right. So you can do the books. Like you don't need the bank.
Right. You're controlling the monopoly piece.
You're controlling the monopoly pieces now. You're taking the value off of the paper and putting it on ledger.
I was terrible at Monopoly, by the way.
Because you don't understand it. You're not terrible at it. You got to understand. You gotta know when
I
to
think
be
that was my
focused.
point.
Yeah, you got. That's just it. Once you understand certain things, see, everybody try to go in the beginning. We all go at what everybody else is going at, instead of like what difficult show you is. If you stick dealing with one thing, just focus on that, because you're not gonna get everything at one time. Just chew what you can chew, spit out what you can't. So you gotta just focus on one thing at a time. It's kind of hard if you try to do accounting, billing, then you don't even know the difference between the beneficiary.
But tell them though, like basics is all you need. Like you don't need to go straight Walmart level bookkeeping. Like you're just doing basic level ledger duties.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? And it's easy.
You're your own accountant, in other words. So you just keep
Yeah.
record keeper.
But like he
Right.
said though, it's hard though because some like you might have a court case, you got a job, all this stuff's going on in your life, and it's hard to focus on one thing though, you know?
Yeah, because a lot of people think they got to do it daily, right? But as long as you keep a little booklet on you and you're storing your paper, like utility bill coming in, right? I just annotate the utility bill, accepted, which means I can now accept it. I can deposit that liability. I put it in my own little vault.
See, I pay QuickBooks, and I pay them.
QuickBooks
I
works
think
too. I like both. I like both.
$39. You know, put all your stuff inside of there. Easy, like you know, you can set up all your cards to go straight to there, so that way it'll budget it. You can put your credit cards in
Yeah,
there.
QuickBooks is nice because they'll do it. They'll do the conversions for you. But then
And
how
you
you
can
get
take
it off of
pictures of
QuickBooks
receipts
is
if
a
you
bill of
use
exchange.
cash. Yeah, but you can use it for the PDF to take the information off, and you can keep that as your own, as if you even hire QuickBook as a 1099 for you.
Yeah,
like an
yeah.
employee.
But it's
You know.
not as hard as people make it sound. Like, you know what I mean? Like people,
Nah, you gotta know what to
grandma
do with
used to
the
do this with her
information.
checkbook.
Right. But like I grew up, man, I used to balance my checkbook when I was 18, you know what I mean? In 1998. Before the towers collapsed and everything went to the like I think that's when like because I've heard somewhere that, you know, the debt was repaid in 2021, or excuse me, 2001. So they had to, you know, build up that debt all over again, you know? Something like $32 trillion was missing from the books right the day before 9/11.
I mean, it's probably, but I don't like speaking on nothing that I can't, you know, touch or read. But
Yeah,
we
but
don't know what
that
really
but you gotta leave room for conspiracy theories, man. Like, come on now.
happened. It keeps it real, you know.
Right? Hell yeah.
You gotta have a good conspiracy to stay up.
Right, because you gotta be, you know. You
So
gotta be,
y'all, I got to jump off, but I just want to tell. I wanted to tell Difficult. Thank you for your time and taking the time to teach and talk and thanks for everybody sharing.
Y'all
It
listen to
helps.
Difficult. He knows what he's doing.
and it's just building, man. I like bringing people together, man. That's all I like doing, man. Because I
They
mean,
call them difficult for that reason, right there.
right? Like I like bringing the people together because when we come together, then we can build, right? And then we can get that underground railroad, and then we get everybody out. You feel me?
Yeah, this is about everybody.
Right.
That's awesome. I'm gonna put the kids to bed. You guys, good night.
All right, good night.
And Difficult, when I finish all these classes up, man, don't even worry about it, man. I'm gonna start teaching you how to do this properly.
What classes you in, bro?
Man, I'm a pastor with that attorney, bro.
Pastor who?
Running books. Pastor of the Way. He's got that class with the attorney and his wife. And the wife's a killer bookkeeper, and the guy running the class, Mark, he's an attorney, a tax attorney. He's teaching us how to do all this properly.
So how do I get in the course, or it's a private course? What's going on with it?
I can't hear him. I can't hear what he's saying.
How could I get in that course?
They're gonna run another one after this.
Yo, let me just cash app you like 25%. Just give me the files and shit so I can read them.
But it's wild, bro. Like he was going into the other day, like him and his wife, they're working with the Treasury right now because when you know how to run your own ledger, so they're running a bond for sale through the Treasury on the market, and they're just taking the dividends off that to pay for their house. Like they know what's up.
And I always said that though. I've always said that like they're getting a security interest because you give it away, right?
Yep.
The security interest could pay for the note.
Exactly.
And then some.
I know where 700 acres at right now, man. I never.
No, they ain't even fucking around. They went straight in for 15 mil. Like, goddamn.
See, like
and the IRS, everything follows them too. Like, so the IRS agrees with them. They're doing everything they should for whatever they have for tax duties. The Treasury agrees with them because the Treasury runs off the accrual method and double entry accounting. Like, it's all on par accounting.
The accrual method. See, that's the thing, right?
I think it's so many community banks. The community banks be people that is like who we talking about right now. They just build their own bank. And whoever
I mean,
come in, come in and
accrual
just
method
use
versus cash. The only thing you need to know is accrual method is the transaction on your books happens as it occurs. Cash transactions happen as they change hands.
I see.
Right? So, like, if somebody owes me a debt, that's going on my books as an asset the moment they owe it.
Right.
Yeah.
That allows you to have multiple transactions or accruals without having to transfer it.
Yep. So now ask yourself this, dealing with child support, right? So once you understand double entry bookkeeping and the accrual method, what is telling you that child support agency or child support enforcement, whatever, hasn't already lodged an asset on their books?
That's why you gotta challenge it.
Yeah, because they for damn well
You're not
sure
gonna
already
know
have
the
an
challenge
asset on
unless
their
you know
books.
what the challenge
They're not
is.
gonna never show you that ledger because there's so many different other people information on there.
But you're not going to know to challenge it unless you know that you can challenge it, though.
Yeah, because I mean, they don't teach you accrual accounting in school for a motherfucking reason. You know what I mean?
But they'll give you that accrual rate on the contract, though. You see that word accrual all over that contract, but you're not going to know what it means. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
They're trying to ledger it. That's it's ledgered right away. I mean, that's how they're moving money. It ain't really the re-endorsement of the contracts. It's the fact that they can shove it on their ledger, convert the liability, and offload it.
My thing is this, though, and let me just get this out, right? It's all fictional, all of it, because
100%.
Because a promissory note is to say I'm going to promise you, but like I was reading through, I can't remember what I was reading through right now, but it's Don Kalam's book, right? Don Kalam's book. He's talking about how a promissory note is basically a gamble because you're not going to know by the time that that loan or whatever you sign comes to maturity date, that there's going to be money to even satisfy the debt. There is no money, so everything's a gamble. So, like,
yeah, it's like a revolving door of used liability. So, like, if I was to explain it, because you got debits and credits, so you got in and out, right? So coming out of the Federal Reserve, we have a debit and a credit. So that it doesn't matter if it's to you or the bank, we got a debit and a credit, we got to settle the books, we got a taxable event.
Settle the books. Exactly.
Yeah. So every time the books are getting settled, you're creating a taxable event.
Right.
So that's just how it works. That's how the funny money works. Comes out, somebody uses it, they get taxed on it. Somebody else uses it, they get taxed on it. Somebody else uses it, they get taxed on it. But that's all you should be worried about personally is the tax. The only thing anybody should be paying is the tax when it's required.
Right. But, I mean, paying is just performance at this point anyway.
Yeah, that's it. It's performance on the books.
On the books, exactly. But you can just throw FRNs at it to, like, I don't know the book, so let me just discharge that performance.
Well, a discharge definitively in the accounting world is the movement of debt off of your books. So, like, if utility company X says I owe X amount of dollars, they send me a bill. I ledger that bill, convert it, pay them with that liability on my books, and that's the discharge of the debt.
Right.
And then all we have to do is, since I ledgered that liability as an asset, I just pay the tax on the asset.
As an asset.
Yep.
Right. Because, like, you have assets and liabilities on your books.
Yep. So a bill comes in, when I ledger that, it's an asset and a liability.
Right.
Two sides of the coin.
I need to go take that one class, watch that one class again. Because, I mean, oh my goodness.
But where people are fucking up is they're not looking at, like, so to get that off of your books, for me to pay using that liability, so I take that receivable, right? So That debt to me, that bill is a receivable, so I ledger it as an asset and a liability. Now I need to do a conversion. Once I convert it to a payable, now I can fund a bill of exchange with my accounts payable. So I credit the bill of exchange. Now the bill of exchange is my ledger is the asset to the bill of exchange. Then once they take that payment, what do? Settle my books. Now it's off your books. That's
do you
discharge.
have a trustee? Do you have a notary that's assisting you doing this?
You don't need none of that. You can run your book. You can run your, as long as your ledger is straight up and on par with Treasury Standard, GAAP, you're good to go.
All right.
And nobody knows how to do that, but we can all slowly learn that. But like nobody's gonna know how to keep their own ledger, even though in the 90s when I was growing up, when I got my first bank account, I was doing my own, I was balancing my checkbook for maybe like, I would say at least a year and a half. And then it was like, oh, they got debit cards now. We don't need that.
And the problem is they're teaching all of us cash accounting. And cash account, you got to run an entire separate balance sheet for cash accounting.
Yeah.
Right. That's like liquid assets, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly what money is, right? So the liquidity, God, I can't say that word.
Liquidity.
The liquidity of the asset. So cash is the most liquid form of money.
Correct.
But it doesn't necessarily mean you can't use all the other shit. It's just a little harder to use.
Right. So you got to do like paid like cash and orders and stuff in order to transfer that. Right. Because it's all about revenuing. Like you're taking it from one account and putting it into another.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then when you dump the liability off, right? So when you transfer that liability, you just let the IRS know. 1099 NEC.
Close the loop.
Close the loop. Exactly. Pay the taxes on the use. You're done.
On the use of your credits.
And even then, when the IRS comes for you and they say, hey, we'd like payment on this, what do you give them? Fucking liability. You know what I mean? You play the same fucking game.
I said, whenever anybody comes at me for a bill or a charge, I'm like, well, give me a bill.
That's your value right there. As soon as they say you owe something, you have something you can ledger.
Exactly.
That's the trick of the game.
Right. I'll be happy to accept it. Let's lower the national debt. Please give me a bill.
And we can't lower the national debt until we start doing the right tax duties and start telling the IRS, hey, I gave these motherfuckers an asset. Like, you need to tax it.
Right. That's why, like, the IRS would probably be happy if we start doing this.
Oh, man, they'd be pumped.
Right.
IRS is your friend.
They are.
I keep telling everybody that's had a criminal charge, I'm like, go ask the court for a W-9 1098-F. Like, where's the copy of the 1098-F? Oh, we don't have that. Oh, here's a 211 to the IRS, non-response. That's my exhibit on the 211. See you later, buddy. Like, tax evasion.
Right. And they're doing it every day. They're doing it every day. Oh man. I'm gonna have to make sure to like chop this one up and like make highlights.
Like that, they're playing around, but like even on the child support, when they get a child support judgment, like that's damn, there's a word for it. If you dive into the USC, it's like double down. Like they take penalty for the amount that's owed. So you still have to pay back what's owed, but they take a penalty on the same amount. But that's taxable. Child support may be non-taxable, but that penalty isn't. So how come the court's not getting taxed on the fucking penalty they received? 1098-F. Where is it?
Well, my thing is this though. Like, I think just to take the like Occam's razor point of view, right? The fact that people don't know that they can take this approach, they just keep inflating the debt, which further enslaves the people of this land.
100%.
Right? So if
rights
more people
are alongside duty, right? Because you have rights, but there's duty.
Well, but what I'm just saying though, if more people knew the procedure, slowly or maybe rapidly, who knows? Depending on how it spreads, we would start seeing a lot of that debt go away.
100%. But we got to start educating ourselves. We can't be asking the administrative state to educate us properly. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing, though. So when we have a Department of Education that just teaches us to be slaves to inflate the debt, we probably should get rid of that and institute a Department of Education that teaches us how to lower the debt.
Yep. You know what broke me in that class that I started taking? That lawyer, he started talking about rights. Like, we have a right to independence. That's what sovereignty is. You have a right to be independent of the government, to handle your own affairs. What broke me was we don't have a right to fucking Medicare. We don't have a right to health care. We don't have a right to other things. Those are all just given to us.
Those are benefits.
Those are benefits, which aren't rights. Like, you know. And I was like,
right. Why would you want health care? But don't, like, you think about it. Why would you want health care? That means you don't know how to take care of your own health. That's all that means. You do not know how to take care of you got to go run into the doctor. Everything, you got to cough. Maybe a boil comes up on your neck or something. You're like, I don't know what this is.
I broke a baby mama the other day. She said, I'm a single mom. I said, no, you ain't. I said, you're a party to the state. I was like, you ain't single mom or nothing. The state's the state's the co-parent.
Don't worry about it, baby. The state got your back.
The state's a co-parent.
Right. But you still she got to slave for the state, though, in order to get that benefit.
But if you understand the accounting, right.
And
then it's game on.
It's all accounting. It's nothing but accounting.
It's all accounting. So we got to teach ourselves how to account properly.
Correct.
To be accountable.
Right. And be responsible.
Yep. And we can't expect these I'm not going to swear because I'll just get shut down, but we can't expect these administrative entities to obviously teach us the correct way to account because it's not a right.
Right. And they're all administrative. They're put there literally to inflate the debt. Because in this economy, debt is money, right? So they want more debt, but that more debt keeps us more enslaved.
Yep.
Right? And it's only us, the people, who can lower the debt because we are the creditors of this land.
But we gotta let the IRS know because they are the Treasury police.
Right. And that's why, like, now that my court case is out the way, this is all I'm doing. And I'm so glad that you was on, man, because the gems, bro, because, dude.
I haven't touched base with you in a hot minute. I saw you on live. I was like, I got to dump in.
Man, it's love, man, because I see you stop posting because they had to have, like, kicked you off, like, you know, just for commenting, right?
Yeah, they got so many of my accounts knocked off. I'm like, fuck it.
Right. Yeah, like, I was the same way, man. Like, I don't really care about, like, I got lucky with my followers, the last one, right? But, I got to meet you. I got to meet a whole bunch of people in the process. So, like, I'm still thankful for it, you know?
But I had to step back, right? Because I was just regurgitating the same thing that we see across the board on here. And I was like, I need to get deeper into this. Like, I need to have a better understanding of this. So I dove into the accounting aspect to learn it all. Right. And that's really where it lies. Once you start understanding accrual accounting and how that works, you're going to see the whole system. You're going to be able to ask questions that are going to bring it to its knees.
Well, let me give you an opportunity to not regurgitate, but to dictate or to let's just say dictate because I can't find a word right now. What you have learned, right? Because I was on the phone earlier with a guy, right, in my group, and we was talking about the 1099s and because these are the things that closes the loop, right?
Yep.
You have to report, you have to assess the taxes on all transactions, right? To show that you gave them your credits in order to get it back. And you
100%.
And you get it all back. It's all gambling, guys. It's like, think of yourself like the United States and the Federal Reserve is playing pool at the table. And you're the guy with all the money. And you say, I don't know about the Federal Reserve on this game. I'm betting on the United States. You're a third party accommodator to all investments, secured transaction and secured investments, right? And then Article 3, right? Negotiable instruments is where everything starts. It starts from Article 3 through that signature and through that endorsement. Everything starts there. And from there, it goes to like 8 and 9 or 9 and 8, however that goes. I mean, it's chronologically, right? So it should go to 8 and then 9. Like,
yeah, because I mean, we're pissing out securities, but the securities aren't getting taxed.
they're not. They're not. Because why?
we're
They're
not
not
reporting
assessing
it.
the taxes.
They gave us the ability to create U.S.-backed securities and promissory notes, the whole 9 yards, but they didn't explain to us how to report the taxes. Where the obligation lands. That's what's killing our country.
Yep. and they taught us how to read, but they didn't teach us how to read. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We all know how to read in order to get the instructions in order to do the job, but we don't know how to read the fucking publication 1212 or the publication 1220.
And
Right.
That's what That's what I've really been diving into. Like, I've just been silent, but I've been dialing it in. Like, how do we really take this in? And it really dials into, you start with congressional intent, then you go to statutory rules of construction, and then you do statutory rules of interpretation. You need those three things. Because when you look at taxpayer, you don't just say, okay, taxpayer. What you do, and what I've been taught, right, is you replace the definition of taxpayer. What's a taxpayer? If you can't find that, it's ambiguous. And if it's being defined for you by the administrative state, that's unconstitutional. It's outside their delegation of authority. Congress needs to define what they mean with each term.
Exactly. And that like, to me, that applies in anything.
Everything.
You could be standing in the court. Objection, Your Honor. Like, well, you're saying that I was driving. Can you provide me with the definition of driving?
Exactly.
In the context in which you're using it.
And that's Chevron 101. Is like,
Right.
they can't come in because that's, you look at, there's a big, brawl between Black's law and jurisprudence. Now, jurisprudence is it has so many definitive court cases surrounding, statutory definition given by the administratives.
Is that what Black's law is?
Well, Black's law, on the other hand, tries to give you the plain meaning definition. I forget who the Black. I mean, they're both third party interpreters in a way. So, like, jurisprudence and Black's law, like, they are a third party. They're giving you the third party. Hey, this is what happened. This is what it means. Black's law kind of gives you more of the plain meaning.
Well, that's just based on somebody's discretion, though, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, but so is jurisprudence. What a lot of
Well, but
lawyers
the
use.
jurisprudence comes from case law, and that's like from like a jury, though, of the people.
But no, case law can be fucking administrative. It could be an administrative judge's interpretation of a fact.
Well, that's not a jury trial. That's a trial. That's not a trial by jury, right? I didn't.
No.
I need to do some more studying because I didn't feel like a jury trial's decision will become case law, but I guess
Interpretive case law, yeah.
Yeah,
But
I guess it would.
Regardless of what a jury would decide or a judge decides or anything else, it all dials back to congressional intent.
Behind the statute that was written, the legislation.
Exactly, because what is the United States Code? It's an interpretation of the act. It's a codification of the act.
I was saying this earlier today, Bearded. Oh my God, keep going, bro.
Right? So if the codification of the act doesn't give a clear guidance on the definition, we have ambiguity, which, you can't rule on ambiguity if it's challenged.
Right. It's got to be stipulated.
It's got to be stipulated. So going back to child support, when they say support obligation, Support obligation could mean wrapping the kid in a blanket. It could mean providing housing. For them to come in and say it means a financial obligation is outside their delegated authority.
Right.
So we have an issue. That's an unconstitutional interpretation.
Right, because the Constitution specifically states that, right? You can't do that.
You can't do that.
You
Separation of
can't interpret the law
powers,
outside
right?
of the Constitution,
Separation
right?
of powers, judicial and fucking executive.
There you go.
For the executive to come in and define what the Congress intended is outside the bounds of separation of powers.
Right, but then, like, if that happens, like, well, Kim, I need to subpoena whoever wrote this law into existence because I need to know what their intentions were when they wrote it.
Exactly. And that's what the Supreme Court should be doing, but they've been fucking tucking tail since the 1930s.
What do you think about this court guy? I can't think of his name right now. It's like Jabrosh or Gul Jabrosh or something. One of Trump's it was a Supreme Court guy that Trump put in, and he was up there talking, and he's all over the news talking about Chevron and all of that. I think this guy's a plant, but we'll still use his plant words to grow that tree and plant the seed in everybody else's mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I'm with you on that. Like, two wings of the same bird. So
correct.
Like, I see a lot of the same. Even if it's Trump, it could be left or right coming in. It's still the administrative state when you're looking at like the insular possessions of jurisdiction. What defines jurisdiction? You want to look at the insular possessions. That's your foundation to jurisdiction. People are arguing jurisdiction without understanding insular possessions. Like, you're not a national or a citizen when you really dive into it. You're just one of the people. That's it.
We the people.
But Trump, his cabinet, and the left's cabinet, it doesn't matter. They're still playing the same game of ambiguity.
And they won't tell you either.
No, 100% no. No, absolutely not.
And then you hear about that, like everybody loves Trump on in our community, right? Nobody loves the Democrats in our community, right? I don't know, you might, but if you do, like, it's no disrespect, right? But my thing is, Trump, God, I fucking lost it.
I think it's shit. I'll grab a beer out of here. It's
the same bird.
Yeah, two wings of the same bird, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's two wings of the same bird, but we shouldn't be looking at it in a personal opinion. Like,
right.
It doesn't matter which wing has the percentage of the house. What matters is whichever wing has it is doing the best interest in the terms of business.
I think
when we're dealing with them, we're talking about business. We want business to go well. And then we want the fucking interpretation of the statutory fucking obligations inside a business to be interpreted correctly. Like, we don't want a bitch-ass Supreme Court. Like, say what you mean, define what you mean, and that's your job.
Get your hand out of my motherfucking pocket. Right. Get your hand out of my motherfucking pocket.
Trying to do business.
Right. What I was gonna say is, like, everybody want to say this and that about Trump, but everybody's talking about Trump's UCC1 statement and how he used his birth certificate apparently to pay off the national debt.
Man, I can't speak on it, but
what if he did though?
The people, all right. So I'm not gonna, this obviously can't get repeated or tuned out. Like, don't clip this, right? But the people that I'm learning from, right, the people in the legal world, the people in the bookkeeping world, is it can be done. Like, the big issue with, I don't know who tried it before, was it Patrick Devine or somebody else? Their issue was when they went to try to pay off their debt, right? They totaled the entire debt instead of them taking their individual debt that would have had to have been accounted for. That's where they screwed up. It can be done. You can pay off the debt, your portion of it, and remove yourself from the system.
Well, I mean that makes sense too, though, right? And everybody who knows probably did it,
The
right?
people, I mean, the people that I learned from know a few people that have done it. Very few. I'm talking very few.
Of course.
But they disappear. They go to a private island. You know, like
Why would you
that's what
stay
I've been
here?
told. Like you're
Right.
talking, but you have to understand the historical context. You have to understand the legal context. You have to understand the accounting context.
Well, and everything starts with accounting because everything's on money on account right now. Everything is on money on account. Everything has an account number.
Once
Everything
you
you have
start
has an account number.
everything, once you start learning how to run your own books, that's when you can start approaching the specific entities that you need to approach to settle this issue. Right? But without that book, without that ledger that you're running personally, you have no standing.
Well, here's the thing, though. This is the only thing I would say to that, Beard, because you have the right to discovery as well, right?
100%, yeah.
So even if you didn't keep it, let me inspect your books. I still have a right to your books, even if I don't have mine, right?
That I've seen that argument before, and the problem I've seen with that argument is they almost treat you like an imbecile if you're not bringing your books to back what the other party's books could show or should show, right? So like,
So
because we got two sides.
what you're telling me is I need to have a CPA, a license to practice law. I need to have.
No, fuck that. You don't
What
need
what
any
I'm
of that.
saying though, they look at you as an imbecile if you don't have these credentials.
Not even credentials. You just have to be in there with your books because then if you have your books, say, hey, like we'll deal with cars, right?
But
So
they,
I ledgered this liability on my books, and you're showing the judge your
I
books.
got a shortcut. They don't need to know. They don't even need to know none of that shit anyway because you can go in there acting because we acting right. Well, we
Yeah,
go in there.
we're all acting.
So when we go there, when we act, then we just act like we already paid our accountants, and our accountants did that. We just add whatever amount in that it will cost to have them bring it in. They don't have to come with me. Now, if I
Right, but
need to bring
isn't
somebody,
isn't everything hearsay without proof?
yeah,
well, that's a good point, Mister Clutch. That's a good point because if you're coming in there as the defendant, you don't got to say a motherfucking thing.
Yeah, that's actually correct.
You don't got to say a
You're
motherfucking thing.
technically a
Show me
witness.
your books,
I mean,
and then after I get his books, let me go take it back to my team and review it. My team is me with a bunch of hats on. I got a whole bunch of hats sitting in front of me. All right, let me just sit there. I'm a living man now. Let me take that hat off. I'm gonna be
oh,
my own
nah,
accountant. You
I
know what
got
I
a
mean?
supreme. Listen, not me. I got a supreme team. My people who I talk to when I get there on the phone with Nigel, he still has dreams about what Johnny Cochran used to say, and Johnny Cochran come to him in his sleep. So the money I got to pay my team on the side, I'm getting every $1 million I could get for every whatever to every 90 days if I could get it.
Hey, me, you and both, bro. Cause look, I'm trying to get with one of them Allens he was just talking about. You feel me?
dude,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like these people would lie to me that are teaching me how to run my books. Like they've seen people make it to the island. Like shit ain't no joke.
Right. Look, have you seen a movie called Interstate 60?
No.
I just did I had to do like a whole video series, and I just rushed right through it because it's so fucking amazing how Hollywood puts it right in front of your face.
Man, they put that shit in the millions.
Oh man, bro.
That's it. I be
Once
watching that shit with the kids. I be like, what the fuck?
Once you know
see
some of
that?
this stuff, like, bro, tell me you don't see it everywhere.
You can't
It's like
help
that
it.
1996 movie. They see us when they had the glasses on. Y'all seen
Yeah,
that?
they live. They live.
Oh, they live. Yeah, yo, listen, that shit what it is. It's
That's
really
exactly.
that.
But dude, like, not even joking, bro. That's exactly what it is. Like, we are living in the Matrix.
It's 100%.
100%. Like my eyeballs are organic fucking camera lenses. They're just organic. They're not made from like metal. They're not made from man. It's made from God, right? But I'm still a terminal walking around in this matrix.
It's just like the bug that went and got into the body. They went to the human body.
Right. We're
You know what I
organic
mean?
terminals, bro. We're organic terminals to the greater one. Like we still hooked. All of us are hooked up to the mainframe.
It's
Just
just
like,
it's
just
just a
like the
refraction.
Matrix
It's how you
told
see
you.
it.
I
Just like
thought
the
that's what
Matrix told
Genesis
you.
in the Bible was about. Genesis in the Bible was about when they made man like in a reflection of like you don't know what the fuck we going on. We could be the first AI bots or genetically
But
made
we are,
shit.
but we're all organic though. But like we're made from a higher source, right? So men are trying to recreate that, and they're just going through their steps. We see it with the Tesla robot. I mean, I would never trust Elon Musk, right?
Bro, that's my big thing about Trump. What the fuck is Elon Musk doing in there?
Hey,
Like,
but like but he might be using that as a tactic to get elected though, because
I
everybody
don't know,
loves
man.
Musk.
I'm gonna that dude, man. I'll give you it. Trump operates on a different wavelength. Like there's some chess pieces moving that I don't even see.
Man,
Yo,
Trump. Man,
but yo, my thing is this, like,
if you want to be anything in life, I don't give a fuck how you feel. Trump is the fucking go-to guy. He need to be on the fucking board. He showed you how to get rid of criminal cases. Look how he got Fannie Willis under the radar on the hook like that. You feel me? So it's this. You gotta be real pivotal, and you gotta know when to fall back. You gotta know when to send your shooters in there. You gotta know when to call a little person for a favor. You feel me? Cause they ain't fucking with Trump like that. Trump is a nigga. For real. So Trump, they not looking at Trump as if Trump is one of them. They don't like him. They'd rather Obama be in the office. They'd rather a woman be in the office. They'd rather anything but Trump to be in the
well,
office
my,
right
my,
now.
my, my thing is this, man. It's all a show, right? Because
Yeah, it is.
back when Obama was running, the Democrats was king, right? They had,
Yeah.
I mean, the Republicans were pieces of shit back then.
Follow the money, man. That's all I can tell you. Follow the money.
And you know
Follow
the
the
money's
money.
gonna shift when the power shifts. You know what I mean?
So guess who's gonna be more powerful?
Exactly.
Guess who's gonna be our ally? Wherever most of this money that been going outside, that's what y'all do. Follow the money. If
Follow
it's
the
going
money.
to Ukraine, if it's going to wherever it's going, what I'm saying is follow the money because wherever the money is going, believe you me, it's something greater to come from where the money is going. Right? They're not just sending it out there. So it's the same thing with the politics. Whoever is getting the most favor, especially with the financial behind the backing of whoever is the higher people, whatever they are saying we're gonna push for that. It's no different from the Dallas Cowboys or you feel me in the NFL or Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. It's no different. 70 million, I'm gonna take the fall, whatever the case is. It's somebody is gonna be shifting it and they're gonna be using the players that they want to. Yeah, we know that the Congress make all the rules and they're just the president. There's no difference of us being the agent or the trustee for our trust account. I understand all of that. What I'm saying is if you follow it, you will know that Trump is the one that he really breaking shit down. So we can either take this time and learn what the fuck going on in the world that we don't see and be able to start seeing it, or we could just keep being blind sheep. So we gotta
Well,
just start
I look at it like this. It's literally all a show. It's literally all a show, and like just like your favorite football team might be the city you live in, or it might be the city you grew up in, whatever. Right? You're gonna pick a side because you just gonna pick a side, right? Because it's a show. It's this guy versus that guy, this team versus that team. That's all it is.
Modern day coliseums.
Modern day Coliseum. That's all it is. So I'm like, right now, my money's on Trump. My money been on Trump since like I remember. I looked at my dad when he was still living in 2016. I looked at my dad. I said, "Dad, Trump is gonna win." He looked at me and said, "Hup, hup, hup, hup," because it was still Democrat heavy back then. Obama's still the president, still Black Jesus. But by the time 2012 came around, like I was hip to it. And I mean, it was all a show to me back then, right?
Bailouts and stuff. I mean, why? Yeah, that there's so many questions in that nobody questioned at the time.
They already broke us up You know, it is a show because when you dive it into it, right? People, human, right? So,
Right. Right.
human, bro. We're all colored.
Right.
It's us against fucking them.
Right.
Say that shit
And the
again.
human is a what? A monster.
A fucking monster.
I
It's a
think
label.
I think the
I got the book
humans.
and all of that. It's a book. You can order that book.
I honestly think the humans are the ones that come out the ocean and out the quote unquote outer spaces in skin suits. You know what I mean? Because they're a semblance of a man.
You can't bring anybody here though. Like the man, I tried to teach some people that I know in life, and I just gave up on it. I was like, you know,
Well,
okay.
think about it though. Like you ever watch like what was it? Independence Day, right? And in the movie Independence Day, and they're dissecting the alien on the table after Will Smith's character shoots down the only one and he survives, right?
Yeah.
And then they're dissecting and he's like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't seem like his body. Oh, it seems like some sort of an exoskeleton.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So some sort of exoskeleton. And then he says it in the movie. Well, it looks like they might just wear this so they can live and breathe in our atmosphere.
Is that why they gotta do autopsies on bodies?
Hey man, I don't know. I'm just talking.
Nah, I'm just saying. You just made me
I
think
don't know.
like that.
I don't want to get. I
No,
don't want
I'm
like.
saying, what if
I
they
don't have
always
a
go
close
in and
encounter
take some shit
tonight.
out?
You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
I mean, when you understand how this game works, you start understanding why abortion, takes the reins that it does.
Not only that,
Yeah.
but, I
That's
mean,
why I got to suck out a hole.
It's
They
like
gonna place that bitch somewhere else. Oh,
I
let me
mean,
keep
don't get an
going.
abort, bro. That's an estate created. That's a trust.
Yeah.
you know what it's like, dude. You know what it's like? Like say like you at a magic show, right? And then you got a magician up there doing tricks, and he's wowing the crowd. Everybody's like, oh, 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 how did he do that? And then you the only motherfucker in the whole crowd that can figure out how he did the trick.
Yeah. I'm like, this shit right here.
You the only motherfucker in the whole crowd that can figure out how he did the trick. And you like, and then everybody's looking at you, but then what you do, you just get up, pack your bag, and you leave. Cause I don't want that noise. Y'all could keep being wowed by that distraction, that sleight of hand. I'm gonna get out of here and then go cash that check. You feel me?
This is where you'll kill some of those attorneys, right? Because they want to. Attorneys have knowledge inside statutory, basically rules.
I think you giving
aspects,
the attorneys too much credit.
I'm not giving them credit at all. Like they know how to move in the system, but they don't know what the rules are to get into the system.
Man, they skip over UCC 3. That shit is so boring. I'm talking about that's the worst class course. They make it. Every teacher says dry eyes. That's how they talk and teach that shit.
They don't learn that stuff. They learn the procedures, right?
Yeah, they don't even show them that. Like they don't even test them on that. That's just all reading. They go in and
to keep it moving.
But the thing is, the procedures are supposed to be written in conformance with the UCC.
Right, that's what the course they don't even teach them. Ask anybody that once you run into somebody that took the bar, right? Shit, we could take the bar. We could just fucking pay to take the bar and we'll just have the test and be able to stream it. Even if we get kicked out, like we could still take the bar. Like they're gonna accept the money and then we'll be able to see what the fuck questions are that's on it. And then you'll be able to see some of the writing shit is where it takes place. Like, you know how you draft up all the stuff on Chat GPT and all of that shit? You draft up emotions.
Clutch, like, you know the dude that was on the call the other night? You was on the call with me, right?
Yeah, that's why I got off.
Right, wait. Did you like, I'm not shitting on the dude though, but he did say it though. He did say it. He said he passed the bar. This dude said he passed the bar. And nobody said anything about that. Nobody challenged that. Like, I mean, like, what? I mean, like, are you Frank Abagnale out this motherfucker? You just passed the bar? But, like, here's the thing. Is the bar an hard test? Like, cause I mean, I've
Nah.
only done about 3 years myself, and I feel like I could pass. I could probably make at least
Well,
about
have you ever
50% on this
taken
motherfucker. You know what I
have you
mean?
ever taken a pre-bar exam? There's yet to be one I failed.
You say what?
I said, you ever taken a pre-bar exam? Like, it's basics.
I would love to take a pre-bar exam.
Look it up.
Look,
That's all you gotta do.
I'm looking at it just to pass because you can be a tax attorney without passing the bar. So that's what I'm looking at currently. But you can still pass the bar in some places without a 4-year degree.
You can be a tax attorney without passing the bar.
Yep. When
Holy
you dive into
fucking
why,
shit.
you can
Well,
start figuring it out.
But Beard, let me ask you this: when you go into a court for a traffic case, is that not a tax matter?
It's a tax matter, so why are you going to do anything else?
It's not a tax matter until you assess the taxes, is it?
It says the income fucking earned.
But if you don't accept the taxes, they don't got to do it. So it's not a tax matter until you make it one.
Yeah, it's still voluntary all around.
All right, I got a question.
I mean, it's still a situational liability. But where I give, I try not to knock the attorneys, right? And the reason I don't try to knock the attorneys is because just like they passed the bar, I passed basic training, right? So I was booting doors in another country for I don't even know how many years, but I'm like, shit. I'm like, I see how that propaganda got me.
I see. That's a good correlation, man. I understand. And it probably takes a little bit longer because it's not so intrusive. But it is, though. But it's not somebody kicking in your door. It's somebody just like slowly, insidiously just fleecing you of all your property.
But you can see where
I think it's a little worse.
I mean?
I'd rather somebody kick my door in than somebody extort me. At least the motherfucker that's kicking my door in.
Right. Rip that Band-Aid off. Rip that Band-Aid off so it'll wake me up. Kick me in the chest. Right? Don't keep pricking me with needles until I wake up. You know what I mean?
I mean, what really got me
tied up, dropping water drops on my forehead and shit.
Right.
I had people speaking Arabic flex cuffed on the ground, and like the only reason they hated me is because we smoked their, loved one with a bomb.
Right.
And so I was like, yo, I gotta look into this. Like this something don't feel right because the news says these motherfuckers are a terrorist.
Because the news said these motherfuckers are a terrorist.
And I was wrong.
Why do you think they wanted to make Will Smith look bad? He showed the enemy of the state. Look, you got all the behind enemy line. Look how they do people. Look how they do us.
Look how they just put it in the movies so you can see it.
Anybody that had a warrant, and you could compare 15 people with warrants, and about fucking 3 of them would be real warrants.
I don't even know if they have real warrants anymore.
They don't have real warrants. Like, name one of them, bro. Because, it's got to be signed by a judge, and then one of these motherfuckers is judges.
Wow. That's just crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But, we know the ones that can see it, though.
By my third tour, I was like, yo, these motherfuckers played me. I'm coming back for you motherfuckers.
That's what I'm thinking about my first case that I had. Right? I mean, they played me. I paid that lawyer $7,000, maybe $8,000. And then still went through the whole court case. I thought
they're not even representing you. Oh my God.
I mean, it was a joke, man. It was my first one was a joke. It was a joke. But it was a very expensive joke though,
Yeah, it is.
Right? So I mean, I think my lawyer was the only one laughing. You know what I mean? I'm like, damn. So by the time my second criminal charge came around, I was just like, okay, I don't have $7,000 to give this dude, so let me just try to figure this on out by myself.
Yeah, I remember my child support attorney. She was charging me like $10,000 a month retainer. She wasn't even representing me. I got her ass though.
$10,000?
That was the retainer. I spent like $90,000.
His husband, we came up with $25,000 all for the attorney to talk him into a plea deal. And the plea deal, that's the reason why we hired the lawyer, is because we didn't want to do the plea deal. And he ended up talking my ex-husband into doing the plea deal.
And they're not even there representing you. Because when you think of it, right, we're going back to statutory interpretation and congressional intent. What is the definition of child? There is no definition. So is it parent biological, or are they talking about parent company U.S. and you're dealing with a minor or minor company or minor trust, which is the real case, right? So we're dealing with fucking business entities, legal entities.
Parents Petray.
Parents Patre. So they're not fucking actually representing you. They're representing the minor estate.
And their
My ex-husband was innocent and he didn't do the crime, and they pulled him into it, and he ended up taking a plea deal when he was innocent. So I was so upset because we came up basically with $25K for what?
I sold my first house for that shit. Oh my god, I didn't want to get into it.
Well, so like Beard, I want you to hear this too, right? Because I went through a similar position, right? So I fell asleep at a stoplight. You know, I left the house when I shouldn't have. 9 o'clock in the night when I left the house, I just couldn't be in the house, and I ended up getting arrested that night because I fell asleep at a stoplight. Right, and they charged me with a DUI and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, right? So I went through like 5 hearings. On the 5th hearings is where I kind of like got the lawyer to leave me alone because, I mean, I filed the kitchen sink on it.
Yeah, through the whole thing.
Right. You know how they say everything but the kitchen sink?
Yeah.
Nah, I put the kitchen sink in there too. You feel me?
Yeah, you called the plumber.
Right. I called the plumber and everything. Exactly. So, but when I showed up, and like I'm position 2 because my last name starts with an A, right? So I'm position 2, but you know, it goes from 1 to 3, and I'm like, and I'm looking around the courtroom, and the lawyer or the prosecutor or the solicitor, right, was the original one wasn't in the courtroom, and I'm like, well, I don't even see her in here, man. Maybe I should just go. Because everybody's telling me don't go in the courtroom, but I don't want no FTA and anything. I don't want them to just have a card to play on me, Anyway, it's the prosecutor, right? So the prosecutor stands up, and he's like, the solicitor, stands up, and he calls my name. So I go up to him, and we have like 1 private meeting, 2 private meeting, 3 private meeting. It always takes 3, right? After the third time, he wouldn't even look at me. But every time he came to me, like the judge never called me. She skipped over me. Judge never called me, and I had 3 private meetings, and all me and this guy did was haggle a price. Because I didn't want to hear about no pleas or anything. I said, you're charging me with something. How much are you charging me with? Can I just pay it and be done with it? I would just like to settle. And I'm gonna just keep saying this though, and like I might be visited for saying this because I think this is the key to just getting all your traffic cases thrown the fuck out. You don't attack the law or anything. How much do I owe you? And can I pay you? And
bro, I can't even get into how important what you just said is because, right, so the guy's teaching me, right? So that same attorney that's teaching me, he just got somebody out of prison. We're talking 20-year sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did was calculate how much it would cost the Bureau of Prisons, how much his charge cost, and all he did was ledger that liability, convert it, and turn it into a payment to the respective parties. That dude was out. What happened live?
Sorry, my phone just keeps dying, and it's like your phone's about to die. I got to sit down and charge it for like 5 minutes.
Did you catch all that?
Yeah, I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me.
Yeah, so he just basically ledgered that fucking liability, converted it, paid all the parties necessary. He was out. 20-year sentence. Yeah, he was out.
And what is that? That's performance. At the end of the
It's
day,
performance. That was it. It was all
that's
about
it.
the debt.
It's all about performing.
And then
know?
you don't even have to pull anything out of your own pocket.
Right. But you can if you don't know how to balance it.
Exactly. You can.
Right.
But you could always just deposit the liability, convert it to a payable, and offload it with a BOE.
Bill of exchange.
That's when the UCC starts protecting you with a bill of exchange, because that's a formal bill of exchange. That's how the international financial community works.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when you can support that bill of exchange with your own ledger, your ledger becomes the asset that backs the bill of exchange.
Ah, just like a collateral security would, huh?
Yes. Starting to get it now, eh? It's clicking.
Motherfucker. you just need
the ledger, like to the IRS, for example, like in Missouri or whatnot, to show them the ledger.
Well, they're going to want to see your ledger. But that's all they care about. As long as you're operating it correctly, that's all they care about. You're doing the conversions correctly, that's all they care about.
Wow. I mean, if it's for a court case, you take it from ticket to docket. You know what I mean?
Yep. Ledger it.
Ledger it.
Do the conversion. Here's your fucking bill of exchange. Because what does the UCC do, right? It protects you on your payment. Hey, I paid them with the right instrument. So if they don't accept it, the debt is discharged. Now you know why the debt's discharged.
Right. I got my books. Where are yours?
Your books back the fucking payment.
And everybody's trying to write promissory notes, which is kind of the same thing, but you don't have a ledger to back it.
But you don't have a ledger to back it. You need the ledger to back it.
Wow.
It makes everything
total
different.
sense. Thanks, Bearden.
Wow.
Just like a check.
Bearden,
just like cash checks from your bank account. Same fucking thing, right? You write that check. Your ledger says how much money you have. You write the check off of the ledger. The ledger is what backs the check. Same thing with your own ledgers in double entry or accrual.
Who's this guy? Who's this guy you're taking the class with?
Mark K with Pastor. Pastor's running the class, but Mark K is giving it. He's just the hope.
Do you does he sell replays?
Dude, they do a whole fucking financial accounting. They do everything. I mean, they got
no. But does he do replays? Like, if I didn't make the class, can I just buy it? What's up, Joe?
Not unless you're not Joe. Joe didn't jump in.
Does this guy sell replays? If I didn't make the class, can I go buy the class and just
no?
Okay.
No, but they're going to do a new class.
Okay.
Coming up here after our class is done, because they're gonna do a new class for the basics that they're teaching now. You know how to deal with it, and they're doing everything from how to run your ledger to how to enforce it in court. And this is from a tax attorney. So they're covering all the bases, no guru bullshit. Like, this is Treasury fucking standard.
I remember him talking to Joe Lustica right before he started this class, talking about him, that they were about to do this class, but I'm glad that it was a success.
We try to get Joe over, but Joe still, I mean, like, I think I heard Diff run it earlier, but like, there's 1,000 ways to do everything. But one of the things you need to do is run that ledger. Like, you need that fucking ledger.
And that makes so much sense, because you keep asking them for theirs, but you ain't got yours.
Right, exactly. So when you go into court and you're like, hey, I ledgered this as an asset, why aren't their books backing what I have? Like, my records are on point. What the fuck is fucked up with their records? And they give you all of the shit you need. When you walk into court, you start speaking ledger, they listen.
See, that's what, like, I made a post, man. You ask the right questions, you might get the right answer.
If you walk to the judge and you dump that ledger off here, judge, here's my record. Here's where I ledgered the asset. Here's where I offloaded. Here's where I funded the bill of exchange. Why didn't they accept that payment per UCC? And the judge is going to look to the other party and be like, why didn't you accept that payment? Other party's gonna buckle.
Immaterial.
Yeah. Can we? We're gonna request a continuance, and then they're gonna settle with you.
Objection noted.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, once you can sniff it all out, and I mean, I appreciate you, man, because damn, break it down to the ledgers, because it's all money on account.
All money on account. That's what a ledger is. You get it, bro. You get it.
Yes, sir. I mean, I've been studying the OIDs though. Like, what do you think about the OIDs though?
As long as your ledger runs them right, like you're all right. But you gotta back your instruments.
That's a breath of fresh air, bro. That is a breath of fresh air because it makes sense.
It makes sense, right?
Your ledger with the remittance portion as well, or do you just?
No, your ledger is your value. That's your asset.
Right. Okay. So
right. So we'll just like say utility company, right? Utility company sends me a bill. How do I move that value off of the paper they sent me with my ledger?
If you don't do it, they will.
Exactly. If you don't move it, just like when you give the bank a promissory note or a car contract, anything else, how are they moving that value off of the paper? The fucking ledger. Right? So your ledger is everything. I gave the bank X amount in asset, right? Because you don't use money in the accounting world. You use economic benefit.
And if that's
the word for money.
And they take the face value of that ledger, don't they?
Yeah. That's the word for money in the accounting world is economic benefit. Where is it flowing? That needs to be your question. Because a debt, right? A debt may, you may not consider it money, but in the accounting world, especially accrual debt, you're looking at that economic benefit. How is it flowing? Where is it flowing? How is it created? Those are your points of interest.
I tell you what, we need to find out the etymology of the word economic in that context.
Anything that is perceived as a gain.
Right, but through what means? Through labor.
Labor, anything else. Fucking sign your name on a piece of paper. Economic benefit, transfer.
Right, but through the deprivation of knowledge, they've converted everybody into voluntary slaves through their signature, right? Through their signature.
Exactly.
Holding their body as surety and converting that surety into labor and securitizing that labor, selling it to investors and making money.
And most people, right? So most people will scramble and they'll be like, oh my God, I got to prove this economic benefit. Why? Why do you have to do that? All you have to do is a 211 to the IRS, right? You're going to whistleblow. You're going to say you gave economic benefit. You're going to provide the things that prove you gave economic benefit. Here's my ledger. Here's the paperwork. Here's X, Y, and Z. Here you go, IRS. Go hunt it down. You make your motherfucking agencies work for you.
I got an appointment with the IRS on December 9th.
Right? Because they're our friend. They're the Treasury's friend.
Yep.
But they spent God knows how much money trying to make sure you think the IRS is the enemy. It's their enemy.
That's what, though? That's the sleight of hand, though, Beard. That's the sleight of hand. That is the ultimate sleight of hand. Everybody's scared of the IRS, but the IRS is your ultimate bookkeeper.
Yeah,
they will return everything back to you that's owed to you.
And when you're dealing with the IRS, don't deal with an agent. Deal with like the chief officer involved. Like, so you'll have a division, and the agents, the division might be fucking nitty gritty. Like they might not know really what's going on. Because if you actually dive into what the IRS agents receive in the form of like an education into this, it's really small. But the guy in charge of those agents, he knows what's going on. So you always got to CC where the liability lands. He knows what's going on. So you always got to CC where the liability lands. IRS, who's in charge? You go for wherever the liability lands is what you want to go with. Like, I was talking to somebody the other day about child support. I was like, look up the Department of Health and Humane Services, like chief executives. Like, they have a CFO, they have a chief counsel. Like, I'm not going to talk to one of their agents. This thing keeps cutting in and out.
You're giving too much sauce. TikTok don't like it.
TikTok don't like it.
Yo, my phone like died in a way it never died before, bro.
No, but like in the I'm in that class right now, but a lot of it's NDA, so we're just taking it as it comes. But I'll definitely link you into the next class. Like, I can link you into a whole plethora of court cases that I've been given, because that's precedence, right? We're talking congressional intent. We're talking about definitive stance on certain things. Like, I can link you into that.
So when you say congressional intent, you mean like what was the Congress's intent when they passed?
Yeah, that should be your first thing before you argue anything. What was the intent in Congress in passing blank act?
Was it to generate money?
Whatever it was for, congressional intent comes first. Because what does the Supreme Court do? Right? They always review congressional intent. That's the first thing they do.
And how many of us actually go in the Supreme Court,
Not many, but regardless, we don't need to go to Supreme Court. It doesn't matter if we can't define it. If they can't define it, they need to go to the Supreme Court.
All right.
Because they don't have any standing without a definitive stance from Congress.
All right.
For them to create something out of the blue and be like, oh, this is what Congress intended, I don't think so, motherfuckers.
Right.
That's not how it works.
What's procedure these days? Like, why do people have to go through so much, just to... Oh, sorry. Give me just a sec.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good. We can hear you.
We can hear you fine, yeah. But that's it. Like, it's not... if they can't create a charge or something else because congressional intent definitively isn't there, it's not our job to go build a case for them. You know what I mean? Like, okay, they didn't define it, then you can't press this against me. It's your job to go make Congress define it.
Right, exactly.
Not ours, you know what I mean?
And not yours.
And clearly and conspicuously.
That's the plain meaning rule. The Supreme Court in taxable matters has come clearly and said that there has to be a plain meaning to everything.
Otherwise, you have to stipulate it.
Stipulate it or assume.
But that's what these lower courts are for. And they get you to stipulate it. They get you to agree.
Yep. Once you agree what their interpretation is, now you're screwed.
Yep. Unless until.
And then, like, I kind of like the whole equity. Like, I've been learning about the equity deal. Like, even God's law, which is above all law.
God's law has I'll tell you this right now. God's law has no place inside a contract. Where you can win on that argument, though, is right. So what is one of the things you need to make a contract stand? That would be clear terms, right? So if you don't have clear terms, you can't actually make a personal opinion on if that goes against what you believe religiously.
Right, because like when you sign the contract, right? There should have been a clear meeting of the minds. So
Exactly.
what are we arguing about now?
So you can't bring God's law into the contract. Where you can bring God's law into is I can't make an informed decision on my trust with God on if this is against that without clear terms.
You just answered
There's
your
your
own
hammer.
question.
Also,
You just answered your own question.
debt is paid.
Not paid. It's only paid on performance.
Right. It's tendered.
Okay, I get it.
Right.
Right? It's all bookkeeping.
Discharged or set off. There's nothing paid.
They gave you more than that. It can be paid on performance. It can be paid on insurance. It can be paid on a multitude of ways.
But it's still on account, though.
But it's still on account. You got to deal with the ledger.
Right. And that letter just gets passed on. Never gets settled.
Yeah, you got to settle the debt. That's what debt discharge is. For me, like I get a bill from the utility company. I ledger that debt as an asset. I convert it to a payable, so it's a receivable. Convert it to a payable, and then I credit from the payable to a bill of exchange. My bill of exchange is credited from my ledger. My ledger is the asset that backs it. Now I can tender it as payment. Now we can settle the books. That's discharge.
See, I could tell that you've written all of this down. You visualize it because you can.
I could see it in my mind. Like I can do the calculations now.
Right.
If I didn't have my grandson right here, I'd be writing notes. Damn it.
Well, I mean, like to me, it's pointless because he's saying it from his mind, right? And it's because he's seen it, right? If you can sit down and write the ledger out yourself, you'd be able to say it too.
You could type
He's
this
actually
into
doing it. He's making it happen. And once you do that, you picture it because it's how you live life. It's how you set off and clear the national debt.
And then all you have to do, because if you ledger, like, so if they send me a bill, right, that's paper money, that's value on a piece of paper.
Right.
I can ledger that because liability is an asset. That's double entry bookkeeping. Asset equals liability plus equity. Equity owner's equity. So I get to ledger it two ways, so I can move it two ways.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
You're gonna get like you once you start doing it, like at first I approached this and I was like, oh my god, dude, what the fuck is this? This is melting my brain. Then I started doing it like day after day, just doing simplistic shit. Day after day, I'm like, okay, I'm ledgering this as an asset. That means, oh, I just have to pay the tax on this because now we're talking about real income. Now, once I pay the taxes, because that's all the IRS gives a fuck about, like pay your taxes. Okay, I ledger an asset, pay the taxes, 7%, whatever. Pay the IRS because my books show I have to pay them this much. So I'm just moving liability on book and off book.
And it's called income, right? So it's coming into your ledger.
Well, income definitively isn't defined. There's all different types of income. So you need to figure out what type of income is coming in, right?
Right, but and that's the ambiguity. But
that's the ambiguity. So you need to figure out what's coming in that is taxable.
Right.
Not everything coming in, not everything you ledger is going to be taxable.
Right. Yeah. It's how's it classified, right?
Yep, exactly. So, and then when you start doing that, like your cash accounting is an entirely separate balance sheet.
Right. And they're always offloading onto that cash, that cash sheet.
They always point you towards the cash sheet, and like that is not a proper that is not a proper financial statement.
It is until you rebut it.
You are absolutely 100% right. It is until you rebut it.
But like
and these judges, like
ledger is like you have even more weight.
Oh my God, you have so much more weight because you're ledgering every single one of your contract as an asset.
That makes so
anything you sign your name to, any piece of liability, that's an asset.
Right. That makes so much sense because you don't sign an affidavit unless you get proof.
Yep. Right. So now you're talking your mortgages, your car contracts, your utility bills, your cell phone bill, everything else gets ledgered as an asset. Now what does your income look like going to the dealer? Especially if you're balancing your books the correct way, right? Because you're settling your obligation, you're moving the liabilities. Do you look solid? That's why I get all these people. They're like, what do they say? They plur out their debt discharge. Why would you want to discharge debt? Or not debt discharge, the credit people. They try to remove shit off your credit report. Fuck that. That's liabilities in the air. Like, I want to ledger those motherfuckers and use them.
Well, people want to they want to get it off so they can get more credit and they can, start fresh and start a new ledger,
But why not just run your ledger the right way to begin with?
Well, I mean, is it worth your time to get rid of it and start over, or to try to ledger everything that you've messed up for the last 40 years? I don't know how old you are. I'm 44, so like everything on my ledger is
39. I wish I knew this when I was 18, though. God damn it.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, there is that playing field where you got to decide, what do I have to start hitting on, and what do I need to erase? And in a way, you could start fresh. In a way, you could just start today. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I'm definitely starting today because knowing that I need to keep my own ledgers. And it's so funny because I went through a whole ordeal with my the dealership that I bought my car from, right? Because I called them and I asked them for the closing documents, all of the closing documents. The dealer never sent me anything. The dealer never sent me anything. Now the bank, I called them and asked them for the same thing, and they only sent me the retail sales agreement, right? And I thought at the time, okay, cool, because I don't remember what I sell. I signed like 1 million papers, but I wasn't conscious back then, right? So I got the retail. I looked over it. I didn't know what I was looking for. I was just like, yeah, let me go ahead and read this thing and let me get my learn on, right? But it only took like maybe 6 months later after, turning over all the stones, you get a little bit more information, and you go back and read it again, and then you're like, wow, now you're like Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind. Things start popping out at you on the contract. You know what I mean?
Yep. And think about how much faster you would have moved through that if you were running your own ledger.
Well, I would have had to known that though.
Exactly. You would have had to know it. But you can dump into small claims off a payment. You don't have to dump in off the whole contract. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but at the same time, right? So I went into, because they never sent me the contract, right? So I went down to the dealership, right? And I was like, hey, yeah. And I started asking them questions and everything. Like, the guy told me, oh, yeah, the contracts, we put them in boxes and we ship them off to a storage facility off-site. I was like, really?
You gonna swear on that?
Like, wow.
You gonna put that on the record?
Right. But it's so fun. It's so fun to go in there and watch these people dance when you start asking them questions.
Bro, I converted it was Chevy's district manager. Like, I fucked him up. But my girl, like, her car payment, same as mine, like, I literally just ledger it. Like, I convert it and I pay it. And she's like, I don't even believe this is real.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, if you can send the ledger along with your 1099s and everything, what can they say?
That's a snapshot. So you just explain what a snapshot of the balance sheet is. So, like, right? So when you're dealing with a snapshot of the balance sheet, you're given a quick overview of, like, your assets and liabilities, and they should equal out. But when you send that, like, you're giving them a piece of your ledger to show that it's backed.
Right. It's all accounted for.
It's all accounted for. Yeah, that's all you're showing them. You don't have to give the motherfuckers your whole because there's the general ledger. You don't have to give them that. You can just give them a quick snapshot of the ledgers to show the assets backed.
Right. Right. Just the relevant materials, right?
Relevant material, exactly.
Wow.
So, like, when you're dealing with the banks or anything else, like, you're just sending them a quick snapshot. Like, you could convert the instrument on the paper, because you're doing T ledgers. Like, I could convert it on the contract or promissory note, but I don't know, that's harder. It's honestly more difficult because then you got to offload it to a bill of exchange right there. But if you just do it on your own ledger, and then you got to take things off your ledger from a receivable to a payable, you're just using the bill of exchange. Then the bill of exchange is backed by your ledger.
So it's almost as if a bill is a way of transferring a ledger.
Yeah, because that's the you can't put anything on your ledger because we're all just authorized representatives. We all know this. We don't need to argue it. We're all just auth reps, right? So when they send a bill to that entity, all you're doing is ledgering that bill. So you're going to deposit the liability, which is an asset.
And nobody's doing it. That's why we're 30.
Nobody's doing it. And then once you ledger it as an asset, you got to decide, is it income or is it a cap? What is it, a gain? Is it a dividend? What defines as an asset and what is taxable as an asset? So then you do your part with the IRS. And then when you send it out, so if you take liability in and you dish it out, you need to let the IRS know you dished it out. And that's how it gets taxed.
Close the loop.
Close the loop, exactly. But that's discharge.
But you can be it and then just keep it going.
Yeah. I mean, you could stick your ass out there on liability for anything and ledger it. And that's what we're learning, in the class is like, you can fund a bond through the treasury and then you take the dividends, a taxable event, obviously, but you could take those dividends to fund, a mortgage payment and pay your house with it.
It would have to be attached. The dividends would have to be attached to that account, though.
To that account, to that bond, though. But you still ledger it personally.
Right. So there's plenty enough proceeds, right? I would say from that accrual period to handle the principal payment, right?
Yep. Because you think of like a utility bill, right? So that's a short-term obligation. So when you're taking in a receivable, you're dealing with a short-term obligation. You deposit that on your ledger, credit and a debit. It affects two accounts, right? You're going to convert that short-term obligation into a long-term note payable.
The secure transaction.
Secure transaction.
Yes.
And then once you got that note payable, that account payable on that side, then you can take that and you can credit a bill of exchange with it. Now your asset backs the bill of exchange. Now you can move the money.
You don't need no UCC, do you?
No UCC, but the UCC protects you, right? Now when you walk into court, bro, now the UCC is protecting you.
Wow. All right, that's enough, man, because I don't want you to, no, keep going. Fuck it.
I'm honestly surprised this live ain't been lit on fire.
Hey, they fried my phone.
But that's how you move money on ledger, money of account, because this is all money of account.
Exactly.
Because people see it like they hear debit, they hear credit. There's no such thing as a bad debit or a bad credit. Like it's just two sides of the account. So you're just trying to settle books. So when you credit off book, right? So I credit the bill of exchange. When that bill of exchange is accepted, right? I debit a specific account, and the debit brings that account down.
Right.
Because debits and credits work differently on each side of the account. So assets, they work differently. Liabilities, they work differently.
Right.
So when I debit back, that brings the account down. That settles the books. Now you got your liability removed. Now that's what discharge is. You seeing it?
Yeah, I see it, but like I hear it, but I can't see it until I actually start working some ledgers. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna start working some ledgers tomorrow.
Work your ledgers and then just, dude, hit me up. Like I will walk you through it with me. I mean, I'm not going to consider myself an expert, but I'm really good at this now.
Yeah, I see, because you've been missing for a minute.
That's what I've been off learning. I've been learning how to run my own ledger for the last year.
So I was about to start this IRS tax course and shit to get my PTIN. Right? Because I mean, why would I not? Right? Because want to learn everything about closing that loop at the end of the year. Every
It's
tax,
all about closing the loop.
right?
And so why are you doing it at the end of the year? Why are you not doing quarterly?
So you can do it quarterly, but
Quarterly.
you just got to
I
stay
just
under that
started learning
threshold.
about quarterly. I like that option. December's the next for the last quarter, right?
Yeah, and then you do your own books, right? So you run your own ledger monthly, but then you do your tax duties quarterly. That way you're getting a refund on the liabilities you distributed quarterly.
The liabilities you distributed.
Yeah, the credit you've distributed.
Right,
That's
exactly.
the name of the game.
Right, because I mean, I've been like watching Gene Keating, right?
Yeah.
This is where I'm getting any kind of inclination to keep up with you because, I mean, he tells you, I mean, they send you the instrument every month.
Yep.
Send you the instrument every month. It's a remittance. So a remittance is, I'm gonna pass this to you, you pass that to him.
Yep.
That's
And you
all.
can't do that without the ledger, though.
Right, but even, I mean, to me, like, it's good to know it, and I'm going to know it because you've just showed me that you need to know it. My understanding earlier was that's what the IRS for. That's the service they provide. So just send it to them.
Yeah. You can have, I don't know the code off the top of my head. So sorry, but like you can have the IRS do your books because technically they're not your books.
Correct.
But as long as you're squared away, like and all your shit's squared, and your reporting's right, you can send them your books to do the proper send offs for who they need to hit up for the liability.
So, I mean, if that's the truth, right? Just like in court, you should be able to subpoena the IRS for the books
Yeah.
and say, look, IRS, I'm going to start my ledger from what you send me. That's fair game, right? Because if I had no knowledge of this prior to this date, it's kind of like a 1099A. It's like the 1099 said, like, it's either when you acquired it or when you became aware of it.
Yes. So as it's incurred is the term.
Okay, so right, because you can't be held liable for something you didn't know about.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm sending like notices of intent to the IRS, like, look, I'm sending you this with the intent to do that, so you don't try to hit me with fraud.
Yeah, because the big issue is like none of us are doing the correct reporting duties.
Because none of us have any knowledge.
None of us have any knowledge, but also knowledge is not a right. We're getting into it now.
Right? But like, it might not be a right, but you still can't prove intent.
Yep, 100%. But everything changes when you start running your own ledger.
But can you do that though? Can you petition the IRS to send me the ledger so I can start anew?
For your ledger, you just start it. As long as it only gets difficult, so your ledger only gets strange on delinquent debts, right? Because then you're dealing with cash accounting, you're dealing with a little bit of difficulty. So if you're up to date on your debts, you can start your ledger like immediately.
Well, my thing is this, right? If I've never done a ledger, I'm not gonna know how to do a ledger. So like, I always liken it to my jobs, right? I would take a job, and then they would just dump all of the work on my desk, and then I can thumb through it, see how it's done, and then figure it out from there. But if I had to do it from scratch, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, are you up to date on payments? On anything whatever you're up to date?
I plead the fifth.
So start doing it with whatever you're up to date on, right? So like for me, if I was looking at it, like if I'm behind on car payments, I'm not going to start it on a behind car payment. What I'm going to get is a true bill and then recontract into it. Yeah, are you kind of getting what I'm saying?
I see, because that kind of zeroes it out. And
Zeroes it out. So send me a true bill so I can ledger that liability. Now we're caught up.
Let's say that you're all caught up with your, let's just say that you're all caught up with your bills. And you've paid with FRNs and you just started, ledgering this month. Do you go back and recoup by like 1099 OIDs?
Your recoup's got to be with the IRS. So you want to let the IRS know what you've covered. Because what does the IRS think you are, right? Have you asked that? Like, because it's all about the who, what, why, where, and when. So the IRS, when you're dealing with tax and liability, right, they think you're a withholding agent. Because you're not letting them know that you offloaded the liability or gave liability. So they're treating you as a withholding agent. That's what you need to correct.
So like correcting your estate.
Not just estate, just your books in general. Like you need to let them know, no, I'm not in control of this debt anymore like I gave it. This person is where the tax liability, wherever the liability lands is where the tax lands. Start computing liability and asset in the same mental sentence. I gave liability should be computed as I gave an asset.
Yeah, because that liability has a face value, and they call it hypothecated.
Hypothecated, yeah. So stop saying liability in your brain without asset attached to it.
Right.
Just like cash. It's just like how cash gets accounted for. You need to account for the liability. On the bank's books, that's a liability.
Right. Because it's ultimately stuff you're going to be receiving on.
Yes, and you need to tell the IRS about that too, because that's all recoupable. You can't recoup till you report the assets you've given.
Correct. Close the loop.
Close the loop. Do the correct reporting duties.
But like it's so funny, right? Like the state nationals and all, everybody's telling you don't have to file your taxes.
That's stupid. They're going to get people in jail.
I know, but that's like, once I realize it's like when you file your 1040, that's how you close. I've been like, these motherfuckers been teaching me the wrong thing for like the last 5 years.
I mean, I can't blame them, but like they just haven't done, like what I said earlier, like, congressional intent, right? Statutory rules of interpretation, statutory rules of construction. So when you take those three things and you start applying them to the tax codes, you can start figuring out what's actually taxed. Because income is ambiguous. They have gross income, blah income, this income, that income. But when it dives into actual income, there's no clear definition.
Correct.
So you're reporting the wrong things. We need to correct our books.
So the agency gets to interpret that.
Yeah, we're basically giving it to them.
Correct. Through the affidavit you sign when you file whatever, the W-2 or the withholding agent form.
But once you start to, because you remember, right, we're not operating on our behalf. This isn't personal. This is all about law of agency on behalf of the name, the legal name, right? So we're doing the books for the legal name.
Correct.
Right, so we need to know, right, all right, is this legal name getting what is defined as income? If this legal name gets a capital gain, if this name gets a dividend, like there's specific reporting duties related to that is taxable.
Right.
Right, so you have to play the game correctly.
Because it's a game.
Yeah. So it's not about tax evasion. Tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is not.
Right.
And it all comes down to intent, right? So when it's same thing with child support, taxes, everything else, what do they say? Willfully did not pay tax. Willfully did not pay child support. Willfully did not pay X, Y, and Z. But if you can back yourself up with the statutory fucking interpretation, hey, I didn't pay this because the statute, the congressional intent, X, Y, and Z didn't define it. Doesn't define what I have to pay, so I didn't pay it. That's when you're in the clear.
I would make the statement. I would ask the question though.
Well, yeah, you're still asking the question in the same sentence, right? Because you're making the statement that, hey, the statutory interpretation, in my view, doesn't define income. We'll say income, right? What is your definition of income? What are they going to do when they can't define it per the plain language rule by the Supreme Court?
Perfect cornering question. You give them your interpretation and then ask them for theirs.
And ask them for theirs, exactly.
And see what they do.
And see what they do. And if they can't define it, what are you in? You're not liable.
That's a fact. I mean, we can't stipulate on that fact. And if you can't stipulate, if you can't come to agreement, you must dismiss.
Yep. Right? Because this is just a court, right? We're serving tennis balls back and forth.
Exactly. It's a fucking game.
It's a game.
And whoever loses got to pay.
Whoever loses got to pay. And I tell you what, the other side doesn't want to lose. Prosecutors got to pay if they lose.
I just won my court case, and I'm trying to figure out how to get them to pay me.
Oh, fuck, dude. Use that 1098F.
I haven't heard of that one, man.
1098F's a little secretore.
I'll look it up.
You get them with that. Yeah, you know that 1098F.
You're a plaintiff. You don't want to do the 1098.
Well, you're not filing a 1098F. The court is required to report gains, right? So just like you are trying to define, hey, what is income? What is a gain? What is a dividend? What needs to be taxed? You can also imply that or redirect it towards the court. Hey, what do you have to pay? And if you didn't pay what needs to be reported, what are you doing? You're tax evasion. That's treason. See you later.
Wait, say that again. If you didn't have to pay what?
Well, you can turn it around, right? So just like we're all looking at, okay, what needs to be taxed? We know taxes in a general term. What needs to be taxed? You can turn that around on the courts, right? What did you gain? And out of those gains, what needs to be taxed? Right. And if you didn't report those taxes, that is tax evasion, also treason.
Right. I see.
Yeah, you get them with that. You get them with that.
I mean, if you have evidence that securities are being traded and all that, that's an obvious taxable event.
Taxable events, right? And when you start running your own ledger, you get to start seeing like, hey, I can ledger this as an asset. How come you didn't? And you know damn well they didn't. You know they ledgered that asset, then you can start nailing them.
I just subpoenaed the bank, all the records. So like the accounting records, the booking, anything to do with the IRS. I labeled it all out. I don't know it off the top of my head right now. But we'll see how it goes.
You should be all right. You just got to make sure you're using the correct terms, you know. You're asking for balance sheets, you're asking for snapshots, you're asking for the right things inside the accounting definitions. Right? Because when you start understanding accrual accounting, you can start asking for the correct things. Like I brought up the child support for another guy. I'm like, oh. He's like, they say I owe child support. I was like, okay, ask them if they haven't registered an asset. They didn't say a motherfucking word to him. They didn't say a motherfucking word. Because I can prove, like, as soon as, you know, according to accrual accounting, it's not about when cash changes hands. It's about when the event occurs. So I know, according to accrual accounting, that child support registered an asset on their books. They ledgered it, and they're just withholding it. So I can start hammering these motherfuckers.
Oh, I love this new vocabulary.
So when you say withholding it, you mean like withholding it from your income?
Yeah, well, no, I'm asking why they're withholding and not distributing to the baby mama, right? Because child support is non-taxable, right? So technically, child support, they could do the same thing I'm doing. They don't need to distribute it in cash. They could convert that liability into an asset and pay the baby mama. And then because it's non-taxable, they get to write off a bad debt. They take no loss on their books. right? So why aren't they distributing the asset? Then you start fucking their tree up. You're hitting it with a goddamn fucking 300-pound axe is what you're doing. Because now I can challenge them on their books. I know how their books work.
Right. So here's the thing, right? So for someone who doesn't know it in that depth, right? And you're in there, but I guess it doesn't work the same way in family court because it's not like you're a defendant in there because it's civil, right?
Well, even in family court, they still have to define, like, what are we dealing with? If we're dealing with an administrative state, they're not dealing with the biological children. We're talking about parent companies and minor trusts. We're dealing with the administration of a corporate estate.
Yeah, and what's an estate? Estate's still just a ledger.
Right? And so when you deal with estates, what do estates do? They hold assets, right? Am I wrong?
Right, credits and debits.
Right, credits and debits. So if we dive into the March 9th, 1933 congressional record, specifically the 73rd Congress, right, when we pledged all our assets to back this system, what do you think that estate is for? It's to hold assets.
Right.
It's not a matter of conspiracy. It's a matter of need. This system couldn't function without it.
Exactly.
So we're not talking about conspiracies. We're talking about factual fucking necessities.
Well, the conspiracy is that they're keeping all this information from us so they can control us. That's the conspiracy.
Oh yeah, it's 100% true. But once we start approaching it in the correct terminology, like they're in a world of motherfucking hurt.
They are, but it's like shit. If you didn't come on this live tonight, I wouldn't have been blessed with this, this revelating experience. You know what I mean?
But I mean, we get to pass that along, right? That's what the people is.
Right. And
right. So there hasn't been a time where you haven't blessed me with a piece of information. I haven't blessed you with a piece of information. That's our job as constituents to each other.
That it's like having this spark, that all spark, is just going to be rare, and it's just got to be in the right moment to get it.
Yep, it's got to be in the right moment. God, man, I know times where we've all been dug. Shit, you too, fucking D. Like we've been dug in the same fucking trench for months sometimes, or like we're seeing no remedy. We need to figure out a remedy, and like now we're starting to see that remedy. We're starting to know how to approach it, and it's all in the books.
Yeah, it is. And you don't even have to read that much, man. You can read a chapter, maybe two, and then you're like, wow, I learned so much tonight.
That historical backing is just as important as the books.
Yes. Yes.
Because the people are going to the Supreme Court, dude, and they're trying to fucking find remedy with the wrong questions. And the Supreme Court will hammer you for the wrong questions.
Right.
The wrong approach, they will fucking make you look like an idiot.
All right. Sovereign citizen.
Sovereign citizen argument. I call it the same thing every time.
Yeah. I'm starting to agree with the sovereign citizen term now.
It's like, what's that, HJR 192? Like, HJR 192 has been repealed 100 times, but you know what hasn't been repealed? The accounting, right? You know where they learned this accounting? Luca Pacioli. Write that down. Luca, L-U-C-A, Pacioli. All right, that is the grandfather of accrual accounting.
But at the same time, it's still based. It's you said it's not. It's accounting. It's not what?
Well, the accounting hasn't changed for fucking thousands of years. They can change the law all they want.
Right.
The accounting surrounding this has never changed.
But the laws should have been written around the accounting.
It does. It backs the accounting. It protects the accounting if you're doing it correctly.
But they leave room for ambiguity.
Oh, 100%.
And that's the thing. Like, all of these statutes are leaving room for ambiguity.
So, and that's on Congress, though. Like, listen, like, you can dive into it with, damn, what is the fucking... Oh, hold on. I got notes next to me from fucking way back. But there was basically a court case back in the day. Let me see if I can find it in front of me, where the Supreme Court said it was surrounding tax codes. The Supreme Court said this is ambiguous. If you don't like it, Congress, you need to go back and change it. The Congress, what did they do? They went back and fucking changed it. So, like, there can be no ambiguity.
All right. I don't care if the statute's 3 pages long. Let's get it all covered, guys.
It has to be covered. They can't just, same thing with child support obligation. Like, obligation, all right, where is it defined? It's not defined. All right, if you're not defining it, like, you can't interpret it as an administrative agency. And if you're interpreting it, that's outside your delegated authority. That's a separation of powers violation.
And it says Congress cannot delegate legislative authority.
Exactly. So interpretation would be legislative authority. Am I wrong? Exactly. So it's a separation of powers violation. People are approaching the discussions with the Supreme Court wrong. Even so, it's not our place to have to bring it there. If the fucking administrative agency or administrative state can't define it, they can't define it. They can't charge us with anything.
Yeah, but that's the thing, like the sovereign citizen fail videos, right? We always come in there right to travel and what's the definition of driving. And all of the courts do, right? Because I've never had anything but like these lower courts experiencing that. But you can see how they don't answer questions. They'll hold you in contempt. They do all kind of things to evade the question, right?
Yeah. Oh, I found it. So, well, it's only in 26 USC, but you go into 26 USC 7806, construction of title. Right? If you go into there, you see construction of title, like other things have to follow that. Construction of United States Code, specifically how it's constructed, has to be definitive.
Right.
And it would be, what do they call it? A violation of equality. Damn, what's the word for that?
Equity?
No, equality.
Okay. A violation of equality would be a word. Okay.
It's not equal. So for like 26 USC to define a construction of title, like to go to another title and have it not definitive would be a violation of equality.
Right. Equal protection.
Equal protection under the law. Thank you. That's what the word I was looking for.
Because what holds here should hold there.
Exactly. Thank you for filling in the blank.
And that's a problem with the code, and that's where you have all this ambiguity. Because even in coding, right? If I write a class, right, and I try to inherit from that class and write another class, but I have 2 variables with the same name, it's going to give me an error.
Yes.
Because you have 2 variables with the same name. What's the difference between the 2?
Yep.
So you have 2 articles with a definition, right?
Yep.
But they're all derived from the same article. How are you going to derive the 2?
Yep. Has to be equal. Equal protection under the law.
You got me. I'm starting to get worked up now.
Yeah, so like with the tax code, like you can't get the tax code, like the strictness that it's interpreted in the Supreme Court. Like Supreme Court is strict with the tax code. Like how they interpret it is fucking strict. They don't fuck around with the tax code at the Supreme Court. Like, why is that standard not annotated with the rest of the code? That would be an inequality of the law, which is unconstitutional.
Right. If you need to have a different encompass of a definition, you need to come up with a whole nother term and not use the same term and just give it a different meaning.
Yes. Well, I found it was the Pollock, Pollock opinion surrounding taxes. So, like, basically, surrounding the Pollock case, they said, if you don't like this, Congress, you need to change it, and they did, but it was still unconstitutional. Like,
Right. But
pull
you
up for us farmers.
gotta like really understand this to be able to go off the top of the dome and be able to ask the right questions. You know.
Yeah, but it's not like super difficult. You know, you're just setting a foundational precedence. And what attorneys do is they get you lost in the semantics. And it's like, no, I'm not going to get lost in the fucking semantics. Like, you're going to define this, so we're not going to move forward.
I don't even think, dude. I think what it really is that the the attorneys work off of your fear and your lack of knowledge.
Oh, 100%.
Because even with me, I went in there and like the judge didn't call me up. I had like 3 meetings with it, and all he's doing is trying to get me to accept a plea deal.
Derek's down there. Derek, you just said 6 and 14th Amendment doesn't apply to employees, but have you gone over the actual statutory interpretation of employees?
Oh, I know exactly who the 14th and 16th Amendment apply to. That's really simple.
No, but
Congress
what
only
is
has
the
power to
statutory
delegate.
interpretation of employee?
The statutory,
Under the tax code. Under the tax code.
yeah, it's found in Title 26, 7701. Applies to persons.
What do they define employee
things
as?
that they create.
Right. So, all right. So Derek's getting it, right? So under the statutory rules of interpretation, right? So how do we move on that?
It's very simple. Who carries the primary active degree of fault for the all caps ens legis entity? I've been known to use it, but who carries the primary active degree of fault? Who owns it? See,
I miss Derek.
ownership is the devil's trick.
Yeah, this is the devil's trick. Liability is a bitch.
Everything belongs to the Heavenly Father or
Derek,
the other God in the Bible. And there are only 2 gods in the Bible. There's Lucifer, Satan, as some people call him, the light bearer, and then God himself. Jesus affirms it out in the desert. Paul the apostle affirms it, and God himself affirms it. There are 2 gods. Lucifer owns the world.
And Derek's giving you the knowledge here, you know, but we can't take God into the contract. Like, we have to apply God before the contract.
Let me show you how it works.
I debate that.
You show me one congressional Congress assembled that they didn't start out with a fucking prayer. Show me one.
Well, no, they did.
Prayer.
They did start out with prayer, but you know, the nation was built on a principle, right? So we have God's principle. So you start with God's law that creates our laws, but you still have congressional intent. So regardless of God's law, you still have intent past that. So we're moving down.
Hold on. Okay, I like the way you're thinking, but again, who created Congress?
Now, I'm not saying that, but like, we created Congress regardless, okay, right? But if you enter contract, you're leaving God's law behind. That's where I was arguing earlier with them. Is like, where you
bring God's law into the contract.
You can, but if you let me finish it. If you leave God's law behind and accept the contract, your argument is you didn't have clear understanding to actually interpret God's law against the contract.
Well, no, because God gave us an out. He said, you must honor all your contracts unless they be immoral. We always have a way out.
So we have an out past contract, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I'm right. So I am correct in that.
Mm-hmm. Wait, what did you say?
We have an out post contract because we're claiming, like Derek said, right? So in summarized terms, he's telling you ambiguity. Like, we didn't understand the full terms of the contract.
Or unconscionable.
Yeah, we didn't understand the full terms of the contract, which makes this contract unconscionable because I haven't been able to weigh it against my beliefs, my trust with God.
Exactly. Well, and after the bankruptcy in 1933, the contract doesn't even matter. And this is why. None of those words mean fuck all because you gave the value and consideration and they have a duty to perform and still have not performed. They took your note.
When people stepped into the performance.
They ran and they did an assignment because it was a non-negotiable instrument, but they never disclosed to you that it was actually a security. They called it a promissory note, all the while knowing that it's a security because when you get a blank endorsement on it, they're going to turn around and convert it into a negotiable instrument.
I think Derek's been
the words paid to the order
as I have.
But the IRS is our friends.
That's what I. What
Right,
are
so
you coming
Derek,
late, Derek? God damn it!
so when you leave a blank endorsement on it, you don't make it payable or negotiable, right? That's
And
a
they can treat it as either.
right. Then they
They can
can
treat it as either, but it's still getting
right.
ledgered as an asset.
But here's the issue.
Oh man, this is crazy.
Because you're the drawer, the maker, and they never define drawer in the titles because drawer is the man. Like natural person is not a man. That's still a fiction. So you have to understand that. You really have to
Derek, I was
understand.
just talking to him about statutory interpretation
Right.
and how if it's not interpreted, right? So for an administrative to come in and interpret something would be outside their delegated authority.
Well, here lies the issue, and this is why I can say that the contract means absolutely nothing because it was the action that created the trust. You gave your precious value, time, commodity, and your signature for a performance. You gave value and consideration for a performance, and so they are merely the holder, not the holder in due course of the note. Therefore, they can't assign it to the next guy because they don't have rights, titles, and interests to assign because they never performed.
Right.
So the contract means nothing. People going in there arguing the contract, yeah, you'll prevail here and there, and that's all fine and dandy. But if you want to prevail all the time, I gave value and consideration and my precious value, time, commodity to endorse these consumer credits to be issued, because there's a difference between consumer credit and commercial credit. And they're not telling you that. They're doing an unlawful conversion from your your consumer transaction to a commercial credit transaction.
Well, are you speaking credits and debits, or are you speaking credit in a general sense?
I'm speaking in. There's only two forms of credit.
I'm asking you if you're speaking credit on an accounting credit.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
That's why there's double bookkeeping entries, because
There
on the
you
one
go.
side
That's
it's
what I wanted to
private,
hear.
and on the other side it's commercial, and they're converting it.
But that's what I've been trying to teach these guys is like one of your big defenses is going to be being able to run your own ledger. So when you know how to
That's what the IRS
ledger
is.
debits and credits, like when you walk in there with your books, right, you can start challenging these banks, corporations, anything else with your ledger.
Right. And that's why when you go in to get an automobile, okay, you carry in your ledger. People are like, well, where do I get a
There you go,
ledger?
Derek. Spit
Go
it.
to fucking Office Max, pick up a fucking ledger. They're right there. It says to and from. It says instrument number. All this stuff. Everybody thinks that you have to have a template with an OMB number. That is not true. You can
That's
create
private
your
banking
own shit.
101. You just
You're
have to run your
you're the
ledger.
original source value issuer of all issue. You are the fucking creditor.
We
It's the
started
full
this
credit
country
of the
on a
nation.
fucking paper ledger.
What would you have on your ledger going into the dealership though?
Well, it's perfect. You go in, let's say you're going to Dellenbach Chevrolet. You see a $80,000. I am quite fond of the Denali's. They'll do everything but cup your balls and wipe your ass. I really fucking like them. They're really nice. And so you go in and you tell them, I need the full price, out the door, taxes and all included, for this automobile.
He's trying to
Well,
ledger
so
the
we got to get you
asset.
a
Right?
credit
That's what he's
application
doing.
first. No, they're doing it backwards. They want to get you a credit application first. Why? Because you'll sign that credit application in blank, and they're allowed to put any sum amount they see fit on that fucking credit application. It's a negotiable instrument. So you need the numbers first. So now you got the numbers and you got the VIN number. So you're going to write in your ledger, you know. You're going to fill out that credit application. So you're going to put your own number on that credit application, and in your ledger, you're going to put the number that you assign to that credit application, the amount, and who you made the special deposit with. Because remember, it's always a special deposit. If it's not a special deposit, it's automatically a general deposit. And general deposits, you will be sad every time it happens. So you always note on there, special deposit for VIN number, and then you can put the VIN number for the amount. So you put the amount plus the taxes, because remember, you're not the one being taxed. You're paying the tax on behalf of the corporation because the corporation is insolvent.
What you
under
ledger?
Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
What you ledger is an asset.
Right. And so when you read the 73rd Congress First Session, Volume 77, Part 1, you'll find out that the credit application, the tender, and the warehouse receipt are a security obligation of the United States. All three of them have to be together. Okay? They separate the receipt. You take the receipt and you never give it back to them. And so now it's a commercial transaction because they're missing a piece to make it a security obligation of the United States, which is the receipt. So when you understand this, what he's talking about having your own ledger, it's magnanimous. And here's why. You're the only one that has firsthand perfected knowledge that can testify to the veracity of the facts and your intent. Everybody else is speculating, presuming, and assuming. When you go in there with your record trumps their record. Every time. Not some of the time, not part of the time. Every
motherfucking time. And then when you deal with the IRS, right? So the IRS is going to send you a bill for tax. Derek will back me up.
No, they're not going to send you a bill for tax. You're going to report.
Excuse me.
I'll correct myself. Money's on account that you created, the new credits on account that you created, and you're going to say Dellenbach Chevrolet received it, and they're the ones that are responsible for paying the taxes, and you're going to get all your credits back plus the taxes.
You're going to tell where your liability lands.
Mm-hmm. Because the one who's responsible for paying the taxes is the one that the funds land on. You create funds.
Liability lands.
Yep.
And then even when the IRS sends you a bill
1099-A to buy a fucking car, the dealership runs because they're like, we didn't accept it. The funds didn't land here. No, sir, no, sir, no, sir. And that's why it doesn't work that way. You got to issue your credit application with the tender, which is the promissory note, and fill all that shit out. Sign without recourse. Endorse the back of it too. People aren't teaching that. You pay the invoice to the dealer and the collateral security agreement to the lender. Why do you do that? Why do you order that on your paper? Because you are the fucking lender.
Wait, so again,
now you're just, instead of having a trustee, you're paying the fucking creditor, the collateral security back to yourself.
Derek, don't blow them out with fucking double entry bookkeeping yet. All
right, I'm sorry. I'll yield.
Don't blow them out yet.
But he's 100% correct on having your own ledger, because what happens when you don't have your own ledger? The bank turns around, and it's not even the bank, it's a third-party intervener who has to bring suit in the name of the third party, because the one who gets the assignment, it's an assignment, has to bring a chosen action against the alleged debtor in the name of the original assignee.
Or else they have no claim.
Well, it's the law.
You're backing your claim.
It's under the statute of Anne. The statute of Anne was created in like the late 1800s, the early 1900s. And it's still in force and effect today in the United States. I got a book open right now from 1893. It's all about negotiable instruments. This motherfucking book is so badass.
They've been running paper ledgers for centuries. That's why you should read Pacchioli. Luca Pacchioli. You got to read it.
But here's the other thing. You don't want to grant and you don't want to assign. You want to put on special deposit because it's for a peculiar transaction.
And when they run that endorsement, it's going to be on ledger. So you have to have your ledger to back what's going on.
And so, okay, buddy, I'm going to do some wheeling and dealing with you here at Chevrolet. And I just need you to go ahead and initial my ledger here. Thank you. As I transfer this negotiable instrument, and as you can see, I put this identifier on the credit application, as you can see. And I just need you to endorse that. Thank you very much. And they're going to endorse it. If you want to do business with me, we have to have a paper trail. We have to show you where the source of the credit came from so I can reclaim it and recoup it.
So when you sign the contract, you can sign it by special deposit, right? So,
always.
So that deposit is only used for that purpose.
Yep, I'm granting it on special deposit for VIN number XYZ123555. Now, there's no confusion about what my intent is. I granted by special deposit the credit application and the note.
Right.
And it can't be put on the secondary market. Now, it has to go to the Treasury and be discharged dollar for dollar. 40 statute at large, 411, section 7E.
I missed you, Derek. You're good, man.
I'm getting ready to have another class on how to quash warrants. It's so fucking simple. It's stupid. I went to court the other day at 9:30. The door wasn't open. I turned around and walked the fuck out. My precious valued time commodity is expensive. Well, the judge issued a warrant like a dumb cunt. I laughed. The sheriff knows exactly where I am and won't even come pick me up. You want to know why? Because he called the clerk of the court and says, I know Derek. That motherfucker loves court. You can't tell me he didn't show up. And she's like, no, actually, he showed up. What happened? Well, he went upstairs. The door was locked. It was 9:30 on the nut. He walked back downstairs, so the court's not open. I told him, just go back up there and have a seat. They'll open when they're ready. Bullshit. You call me at 9:30, you better be ready at 9:30, or you just fucking lost. And now I'm going to invoice you for wasting my precious valued time commodity.
Yeah. And if you would have sat there and wait, they got you.
If I would have been late,
The next
it would have
class
been
is Derek.
contempt. They're in contempt of court. Not to mention the judge doesn't have her delegation of authority from Congress to even operate where I'm at. She doesn't have a delegation of authority from the Secretary of Treasury to administer estates. I mean, I got these people dead nuts to rights. They don't want me in their courtroom anyway. As a dumbass cocky lawyer.
That's what I was discussing with these guys earlier. I'm like, listen, Congress, inside intent, inside the act, has to give a definitive answer to a definition, right? So if they don't give a definition, we're dealing with child support obligation, right? They didn't.
You want to see how easy it is to destroy child support?
Yeah, but I
look at Title I, United States Code 204.
You don't even need to go there. You don't even need to go there, right? Support obligation. Is it defined, Derek?
No.
No, it's not. So any definition is administrative, which would be what?
Presumption and assumption.
Presumption and assumption, which is outside their delegated authority. Am I not correct?
Right, because judges don't get to create law or make law or think about it.
Exactly. So we've just defeated child support right there.
Well, I like defeating it this way. Pull up Title I, United States Code 204. Anything that is not enacted into positive law is prima facie evidence of law and is not law at all. It's color of law. It resembles law, has no obligation to enforce and no obligation to obey. Child support is lodged under Title 42, which is not enacted into positive law. The Social Security Act is lodged under Title 42, which
I
is
don't
underneath
even think most of the other titles have construction of title. I don't even know if fucking Title V has construction of title.
Well, there are only 27 positive law titles. 27.
Well, I'm not talking about construction of positive law. I'm dealing with statutory interpretation and construction. And inside construction of a statute, right? So we have an act. Then we have codification of the act.
Enactment clause. You're right. You're correct.
Yeah, so you have construction. So you have the act. You have construction of the act. You have codification of the act. And if they don't have definitive answers for the definitions inside the construction of the act, it's void.
Well, here's how simple it is to destroy them. In all but 3 states are notice pleading states, which means nobody has to swear out under the pains and penalties of perjury. The Sixth Amendment guarantees that we have the right to face our accuser. So when somebody's bringing in unsworn, unverifiable pleadings by an unknown, unregistered, false and fictitious name, by an unknown, unidentified agent and agency, right there is a violation of the Sixth Amendment.
That's why I bring up ledgers with Derek. Like me and Derek talk about ledgers. Like if someone's coming in there and say, you owe blank, like where's your ledger to back that statement? Where like who's claiming the liability to even make that statement?
Fuck your ledger. I want to see your delegation of authority, letter of appointment, letter of assignment, grant of authority, power of attorney. You better come at me correct, because I'll take your house.
But Derek, we haven't got it to insular possessions. No, I don't want to pop you off.
Cat will shit on your living room floor, your goldfish will die, and your kids will hate you by the time I'm done with you.
You want to make Derek mad? Start talking to him about insular possessions.
Oh, yeah. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Then you go to your state legislator, and it says they only have jurisdiction over state buildings and state-owned lands that are appropriated.
They can't even make a claim of jurisdiction without first showing that the possession was given to them. Like, that's exactly what Derek's talking about.
And at one point, the possession was given to them, but then they realized that they couldn't possess all the land, so then they had to turn around and give them out, and that's where allodial title came.
We're talking about jurisdiction. Damn it, Derek, where have you been? I missed you, buddy.
Then they turned around and colored that jurisdiction by putting certificates of title out there. Warranty deeds, joint tenancy deeds, grant deeds. It's all bullshit. It's all color of title.
Fictitious.
Certificate of title.
Right, a certificate is the color of title, right?
Color title,
Yeah, and a
fictitious
certificate
fucking
is also
tacos.
money under the Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Certificate is money. That's why your birth certificate is valuable.
I mean, you're not making fucking U.S. backed obligations anyway.
And aren't
Okay.
certificates redeemable?
Of course it is.
What is it?
It's not a pot. It's not a pot of gold though. Like people fucking think.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. He's
got
saying
billions
it.
and trillions attached to it. No, you create the new money, goofballs. You guys create
if
it
you want
by
to actually,
fucking-
if
by
you actually
creating-
want to put that into a profitable sense, like you have to be running your own ledger.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Because remember, after 1933, what happened? The president delegated to the Secretary of Treasury all the powers conferred in the president under the Trading with the Enemy Act. And at any point,
and war
the
powers.
treasurer can demand all notes, books, receipts, accounting, everything, papers, everything. And if you don't have it, guess what? You're fucked. You're fucked. So that deems you automatically incompetent. When you're being called into a court, if you walk in with your own ledger, I promise you, that motherfucking attorney
You will
is
fuck
done.
them up.
The judge is going to
You will
look at him
fuck
and go,
them up.
I'm not going down with you, motherfucker. And this guy is going to swear out under the pains and penalties of perjury, and you're a third-party debt collector with no first-hand perfected knowledge of shit. You're fucked. We just recently busted a...
They
we
will
just
squeeze
recently
a settlement out faster than you can fucking
Oh,
squeeze
fuck
a card
yeah.
out if you have
They'll
your own
immediately
ledger.
order mediation. And then the attorney will say, well, the reason the judge did that is because if we go back in there, you're not going to like what happens. Bullshit. The reason he's ordering mediation, he doesn't want to create a record in the court of what you're about to do to him. So look,
And
this
that's
is what
before
happened
we
in the
even
last
drop the
case I was in.
taxable duties.
The last case I was in dealt with a repo, Santander, in fact. It's fucking funny. So it was held via Zoom, and I thought it was kind of odd. I don't like Zooms, but for this purpose, it was fucking classic because the guy who was testifying to the veracity of the accounting was in Indonesia. And I fucking died laughing. I immediately fucking called him. I go, mute your fucking screen so they can't hear what I'm about to tell you. He's like, okay. So he mutes. I go, dude, this motherfucker can't come into the United States. Ask him if he's got a passport to come into the United States of America so he can testify under the pains and penalties of perjury. They're reaching clear outside their territorial jurisdiction into fucking Bangladesh, Bangkok, India, all this shit with people who you've never met before. And so he goes, okay, Your Honor, objection. Is this guy, where is he located? And the attorney's like, well, I don't see the relevance of that. He goes, Your Honor, if you would just appease me, I would like to know where this guy is from. He's supposedly an expert on the record that's been maintained, and he's testifying.
Answer the question.
Under oath. I want to know where he's located. And he said that he was in India, and I busted out laughing. I said, fucking case closed, dude. Asked if this guy has a passport in the United States. So he's like, Your Honor, I'd like to know if this guy has a passport in the United States. And the attorney objected. There's no relevance to this. He's testifying clearly right now, just fine. And he goes, I'm going to allow it. Answer the question. Do you have a passport? And can you travel into the United States? And he said, no, I don't have no passport. I just work for this company. And boom, case fucking closed. Just like that. It's fucking hilarious. That's the kind of shit they're pulling right now.
Wow.
Some guy from Indonesia he's never met, maintaining a record online that he didn't create. He wasn't there in the inception. Who knows how many hands it went through before it got to him. And he's over here testifying, this is what the record says, and it's accurate. How do you know it's accurate, motherfucker? You live in fucking Indonesia, dude. Have you ever even been to the United States? The answer was no. The answer was no. He didn't even have a fucking passport. He couldn't even fucking testify. You got the right to face your accuser. Your Honor, I want that motherfucker to come down here. Well, that would take months to get a passport. Blah, 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 blah. Well, I guess you ain't got a fucking case then, do you? If the only guy testifying isn't even from this country and he's a foreigner who can't get into the United States, you guys are fucked.
That's what I mean, Derek. Tell you, man. You run that ledger, you start running the basics, the foundations. Unbeatable. Unbeatable.
I told the guy the other day, he got pulled over. He goes, what do? I go, issue that motherfucker an invoice. Well, you can't invoice a cop. I go, the fuck if you can't? I said, did you have a scheduled appointment with him? He goes, no. I go,
And
look,
then
my
the
time is
ledger up there.
$100 an hour when I take calls. So if you pull me over unexpectedly, it's $1,000 an hour. I'm giving you an invoice. And he can go in dishonor and not pay it. And guess what? I'm going to turn around and fucking sue him over the deal. You wasted my precious value time commodity, presuming and assuming that I was somebody underneath your authority, under your jurisdiction, and you sadly made a mistake. And now you're going to pay me. And make it reasonable, because you'll win.
Every time. Every time.
Every fucking time. Yep. Like
what was that?
I got a class coming up in 2 weeks that I'm going to show people how to destroy warrants. And if they're paying attention, they'll learn a lot more than just how to destroy warrants.
Man, I'm not starting yet, but I'm going to start teaching people how to run the ledger soon.
That's super simple.
Super simple. If you're running basic shit, super simple.
And the best way I've found to teach it to people is act like you're counting fucking nuts. You know,
but once you have, like Derek's interpretation of how the legal standard is supposed to be implied, you mix it with that ledger, like you are gonna be unfucking stoppable. No. Because once you know
so
how
simple, because you have the power of affidavit under the pains and penalties of perjury. Nobody else is going to do that. They're going to say, "I believe, I suspect, and to the best of my knowledge." Well, I don't give a fuck about your belief.
Fuck, dude. You just swear on this record.
To the best of your knowledge. I'm here with firsthand perfected knowledge, motherfucker. With firsthand knowledge.
They will scurry. They will fucking scurry.
Derek, I appreciate you putting out there on your Facebook of the things to ask for, like to subpoena as far as the counting ledger and all what goes inside of it. Because
you guys should be asking like right off the start, like you look at it. We'll call it Derek. Don't fucking knock me here. Judge, parentheses, right? But if you get a judge that's bonded, right? So bonded means insured. They're insured for liability. That removes immunity right there. Like, they don't have judicial immunity. You kidding me?
No such thing. That presupposes it's men above the law.
Like, if they have to have insurance on their behalf, like, that's a removal of immunity.
In this case, I'm the plaintiff, taking the bank to.
No, you're not. You're not the plaintiff. You're the representative.
Right.
Yeah.
Representative.
I'm the authorized representative. You never want to be the agent. The agent bears some liability.
If they don't want to accept you, that's their own fault.
Representative and the attorney in fact.
What's that pro se? Pro se is fictitious filing.
Pro se is a temporary law license. That's why when they convert your claim into a complaint and say that you're pro se, what they're doing, if you don't object to it, they'll turn around and look at you, and the alleged judge sitting on the bench will say, "You realize that you'll be held to the same standards as an attorney." Why? Because they're giving you a temporary license to operate in their realm, in their jurisdiction, and therefore they call you pro se instead of
impropriate persona.
Yeah,
I actually corrected that because
well, you can use impropriate persona for
because that's equity
to yourself.
Right.
That's equity. And then when you do sui juris, that's in one's own proper person.
But you
again,
have to run a duality, right? So if you're representing the state-created entity, right? So there's injury to the state, and there's injury to you personally. So there's always a duality to injury.
Which means if you're representing the entity of the state, don't you have to bill the state? Don't attorneys get paid when you represent the state?
Thank you, Derek.
I guess I'm representing this ens legis entity that belongs to the United States. So I guess I'll be submitting them a fat daddy fucking bill, an invoice, a true
So
bill.
you can never approach anything in a singular fashion.
Right. I corrected it because the attorney, the defense attorney, alleged defense attorney, picked apart my motions and whatnot. And so when
well, that's your first fuck up is a motion. You demand. Right. You never go motion. You may move the court. You never motion. Motion is begging and asking. We don't ask. We demand that they take notice of the law.
Well, so this is really important to understand is you have 5 methods of discovery and you need to learn those.
Okay.
Right. So when you're dealing with anything in a lawsuit, right, you're making your motion, and then after your motion, you have your 5 methods of discovery. And jot that down. Go learn your 5 methods of discovery because they're limited.
Are you ready? There's actually 7. Are you ready for them?
I mean, you can go to 7, but in reality, this
deposition, subpoena, subpoena ducis tecum, interrogatories, request for admission, demand for production of documents.
There you go. That's the important part.
That's 6. You want to know what the 7th one is? The 7th one is negative fucking averments, and they're my favorite.
The most important thing they need to understand is to move from request from admission to demand for discovery. And Derek will agree. So you need to request for admission of documents, and then when they don't produce, that's when you can move to demand for discovery.
Then you do
your interrogatories can be split.
When they don't answer, then you do a demand to compel and show a cause why they shouldn't be sanctioned.
But always remember, your interrogatories can be split. You never want to burn your interrogatories in one fucking push.
Oh shit, I do all the time.
Well, fuck you.
Because in the interest of justice, there is no limitation.
But you got to leave the room on the chessboard, you fucker.
Oh fuck no! I go balls deep right away. Balls deep right away. No.
Anyways, me and Derek can fucking disagree on that.
You can always come up with more questions, though.
Yeah, me and Derek can fucking disagree on pursuant, but interrogatories can either be thrown like Derek, fucking balls deep down their throat, or you can split them.
Yep. I say, listen here, taint lickers. They're like, excuse me. I'm like, that's right between my balls and my asshole, you fucking lint licking sons of bitches. Now pay attention.
So, but the interrogatories, right? You could just serve as many as you want every single time.
No. Statutorily speaking, in most states, you can ask up to 35. In some states, I found
35, 20, 25. But you can split them.
Oh, I see.
But he's talking about actual procedure in the court. I'm talking about private administrative process. There is no limitation, ladies and gentlemen, on the private side.
Like mediation.
Well, you still have to split where these interrogatories are pushed if you're going private.
Well, and the other thing is your failure to respond is an acquiescence and tacit appropriation.
You can also run a private letter, but it can't be included in your litigation.
It can if you record it on public record and then have it authenticated by the Secretary of State, baby.
It's a pain in the ass process, Derek. You know it is.
Can you repeat that one more time? I don't mean to be a pain in the butt. It was admission of documents, discovery, demand to compel, interrogatories.
Interrogatories before demand.
Before demand. Thank you.
So you basically have your court summons and you have your hearing. Then you move from hearing to interrogatories and discovery. That's when you're requesting documents and you're asking questions. Your interrogatories usually have a limit administratively, but you can split them.
Okay.
And don't forget about your bill of particulars. People don't consider that as being a discovery tool, but I always use bill of particulars right out the gate. First of all, the name's called into question, if it's in all caps or abbreviated, whatever. Bill of particulars. And then their statutes are vague and ambiguous. So he did this, or he did that, or he did this, or he did that. Well, what did he fucking do, motherfuckers?
Your discovery is when you play. So if you're running your own ledger, right? That's when you're running your discovery. If you're asking questions of statutory interpretation, that's when you're asking your questions.
Right, point of clarification.
Right, produce. You could also run a tacit notice instead of that privately. Hey, produce X, Y, and Z. If you don't produce X, Y, and Z, you agree you've committed A, B, C.
Right.
Is
And that's
that
where I use
administrative
my
process?
negative averments. I see no facts and evidence. You did not
Yeah, that's when you
commit
run
identity
deferred.
theft. I see no facts and evidence, and believe none exist. That's an important thing. At the end of your negative averments, it needs to say, I see no facts or evidence on record that you did not engage in identity theft, and I believe no facts or evidence exist to the contrary. Now you make it a matter of law, and it puts the onus of Van D back on
Fraud
them.
is extremely hard to fucking prove. So you want to go with
I never use fraud.
Derek. I can't think of the term off the top of my head. Not fraud.
So you use false conveyance of language
There you go.
under the Plain Language Doctrine and Plain Language Act,
Plain
or
language doctrine.
you use
Huge.
unjust enrichment through artifice and scheme.
You build that off of plain
And
language.
you don't say fraud. If you say fraud, you bar yourself from your remedy. Everybody out there, fraud.
don't use fraud.
Everything until you
Stop
fucking
using fraud.
participated in it. And you did participate in it. Let me tell you, you did. Knowingly or unknowingly, it doesn't make any fucking difference. You did participate in it. So then there's no remedy because no one can benefit from their own wrong. So it's a wash.
You can build fraud later off of an IRS investigation, but don't ever go up with it up front.
Damn, I kind of did that on like one of the affidavits.
Trying to prove fraud will fuck you.
Okay.
There's 7 elements to fraud, and the one that is the most rigorous to prove is intent.
And you need the IRS for intent.
And I can tell you how you prove intent on a fraud claim. It's really simple. You do a self-authenticating, self-executing contract where you tell them that they engaged in fraud, and if they fail to rebut and rebuke, they admit that they knowingly, willfully, and intentionally engaged in false and misleading deceptive trade practices.
Isn't that what an affidavit is?
Okay, because I did that with an affidavit. It was
Affidavits are nothing more than hearsay until the deposition has been taken.
Yes.
Because affidavits allow for lying by omission. Derek, did you hit that guy? No, I didn't. I pushed him. I pushed
Derek's
him,
trying to say is,
and he
like,
got a
you
bruise
can
on his
swear-
face because he fell. But in
You can
reality,
swear
I
on a
actually-
fact, but if that fact hasn't been investigated, then it's useless
Or rebutted.
or rebutted. Yeah. So like, I could write an affidavit to fuck all and swear on it. It doesn't mean a goddamn thing until the evidence has hit floor.
Until you get it on the record.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or until you enter it into evidence.
It always has to be entered into evidence. I learned this the hard way. I put a bunch of shit on
I've
a
made
case
that
file
mistake.
jacket. Couldn't figure out why I wasn't prevailing later on. Through my mentors, they're like, "You dingbat, you didn't fucking enter anything into evidence." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" They go, "There's an evidence file and then there's a case file jacket. You need to get it in the evidence file so it can be viewed before the fucking court. And then there's a hearing that is set up for." So you have show of cause.
Evidentiary
You have show of cause hearings, and you have evidentiary hearings. And it's an evidentiary hearing, so you can debate why this document should or should not be accepted as evidence.
Because I like stuffed it like a turkey. Honestly, I mean, this is my first case, and I did
don't.
stuff it like a turkey with all evidence, like 800 pages.
Me and Derek are gonna throw shit at you that's gonna fucking blow you out of the water. Start with your ledger.
Here's the problem. You think that what you submitted is evidence, but it's not. It's just hearsay. It's not evidence until all parties agree, because contract creates the law and equity follows the law. So once all parties agree, then we've established a fact. I can go into court and say the moon is pink, and if my adversary doesn't correct that, then by default, the moon is fucking pink, no matter how many motherfuckers come in there and go, "Dude, we're standing outside right now. It's white as fucking snow." Doesn't fucking matter your opinion, because as far as the court's concerned, the moon is now fucking pink.
Right.
But once you
The
understand,
record reflects.
Action have agreed.
listen. But once you understand the requirements to what's necessary to put evidence on the record, you can also challenge that in your favor also.
But you have to do it timely.
Which we have to do it on the record.
Right. That's why abatement
So
is so
like, just
important.
like a prosecutor coming in saying you owe or you're penalized with X, Y, and Z, you can also challenge that in your favor. Like they have a timely necessity to produce X, Y, and Z to actually put that on the record.
I like telling them guilty of the facts, innocent of the charges. Boy, watch their butthole pucker up when you say that shit.
Then drop it. Then drop a 1098-F.
Because everything they're doing deals with penal bonds and penal sums.
Correct.
That's it. So guilty of the
Right.
facts, innocent of the charge. You were driving without a license. Guilty of the facts, innocent of the charges. Meaning, in other words, I'm not going to be surety for the bonds that you floated, you cocksuckers.
They will ship biscuits if you start bringing taxes into that courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
Which I did. I submitted taxes like what I had ledgered to the IRS. I submitted that.
That doesn't matter because that's a tax court issue. Different jurisdiction.
But yeah,
They
it's
don't
a
have
tax
to
court issue.
recognize
But you can still bring them, right? So because you want to do a
You don't
reconciliation.
want to bring them. That's where you're
Close.
fucking up thinking that you're bringing evidence. You're
Right.
supplying it. Subpoena
It's a
that
secondary
shit.
fact.
Subpoena
Which I
it.
did.
Now
I
it's a
did, Derek.
fucking-
I did. I got it off of your, with your ideas, of course. It was the FAS 95 report, the GAAP
It's
compliance
still
report,
secondary. It's still secondary.
right? The thrift financial reports,
Well,
form.
I'm saying though, if you come into court with like copies of certified copies or whatever, and you enter that into the record,
Wah, 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 wah. You know what I tell an attorney when he brings certified copies in? That's a forgery, motherfucker. That's a forgery. I don't recognize it. Forgery. I
You have
impeach
to
their
stay-
evidence so quick it's not even funny.
You have to stay on target too. You can't bring evidence outside the evidentiary of the fact. Like what they're dealing with is what they're dealing with. So
right?
if you're bringing things into the court with things that they're not dealing with, it's not going to be heard. Like Lady Justice isn't blind. There's just shit she can't see.
But is that equitable though?
Yeah, but you have to approach that in a different manner.
Well, I see the problem that we're having with
Say
understanding
immaterial.
is because we're talking about multiple different things.
Immaterial. There's the word for it.
They're
We're
going
going
to
from like
material, but you can argue equity. It's like, well,
But
I mean,
here we go. Like if they're going for immaterial evidence or immaterial of a fact, like you need to either bring that to a higher court or report it to the
right?
respective
Then you
three-letter
ultimately
agencies.
challenge venue because we're in the wrong. Because they're taking this like this court case and they're trying to turn it into some statutory crime where they're not filing the taxes, they're not assessing the taxes. So that's
well, wait a minute. We're talking about two different things. I thought we were talking about banking. Now we're talking about statutory crimes, which all
I mean,
crimes.
is it really divided there?
right. That's
It
what I'm
is.
saying.
I mean,
It is.
Debatable.
It is divided because
Technically.
under the law of mercantile, every charge is equated to a penal sum, which is attached to a penal bond, and so therefore 27 CFR 7211, all crimes are commercial, which means that
Yeah,
there's
we're
a
dealing with
presumed
banking.
and assumed social compact. So yes, there is a clear difference.
No, I don't
Different.
know because
We're dealing with banking.
Yeah.
I mean, how does the government make money? The quote unquote government.
I'll tell you exactly how they do it. Through taxation without representation and charges.
Through taxation. These statutes,
Well, yeah.
are taxes. They're excise taxes. They're imposed taxes.
No, the charges and the
100%,
penal sums
all those-
are penal bonds and penal codes.
Right. But
When we're dealing with
Into
accrued
a
counting,
taxable
right?
event.
So we're dealing with gain, economic gain specifically, but
Right.
that economic gain is to be taxed.
Exactly. You can turn it into a taxable event. But you can do so easier if you got your ledger.
You can't necessarily turn it into a taxable event. What you can do is void the orders for failure to report the taxable event.
Okay.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Yeah.
so like if I'm doing something, it doesn't matter what I'm doing blank for blank. If inside that contract of blank for blank, I act unhonorably, without honor, without clean hands, now we can void the contract. That's how you void orders.
Well, there's only three ways to remain in honor. This is so important.
Well,
The
no
second
honor.
you
is
go to, the second
no
you go
tax.
arguing, you're fucked.
Right.
You either accept it and pay, or you conditionally accept upon proof of claim.
Correct.
That's it. Those are the two ways to remain in honor. Everything else creates controversy, which is exactly what the lower inferior courts were set up to do, was to establish the facts, because there's controversy.
Correct.
Contro.
Correct.
But what I'm trying to tell you guys, and Derek will agree, is like you can't just shift, an issue to a taxable issue. You know what I'm saying? Like a criminal issue to a taxable issue. Like,
Well, what's an issue?
the issue can be a cumulative of a multitude of things.
No, but what is an issue?
Well, you're talking about the remedy,
Security.
right? So the remedy of the issue is financial.
An issue is a first funds transfer, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
But the end result of the issue is financial,
Right.
right? So you might have the remedy that's financial, so you just move to that point as fast as you can, and then you bring up the fact in a higher court, an equity court, where the equitable remedy was, not brought with clean hands.
You object, right? Get it on the record, and then get out of there.
I'll give you the master key right now, and I've given this out to a lot of people, but only few have ever dared to use it, and I mean this is for everything. Gibson's, subsection 962,
Oh God!
suretyship, subrogation, and substitution exoneration. All right? It says,
I do love
suretyship,
Gibson's.
subrogation, and substitution exoneration, subsection 962, from Henry R. Gibson, Citizen Chancery. Suits for exoneration of sureties. You're always the surety. Why? The answer is in the 73rd Congress. Because the new money shall be backed by the people of the nation. So you're always the surety for the United States. Entire good faith is required. So on all your documents, it must always state done in good faith. That's your intent. Between debtor and creditor and sureties. Here's the trick. And this is going to confuse the fuck out of all of you, so I don't even know why I go to explain it, but I'm going to. They are a presumed and assumed creditor. They are not definitively the creditor. In maritime admiralty under the law of merchant, Article 1, Section 8, they are, in the military tribunal, alleged to be the creditor. But in all actuality, you fill the role of debtor, creditor, and surety. Okay?
They're all
Surety,
Yeah.
surety is somebody who guarantees the payment. The actual debtor is the United States. And the actual debtor is the all caps ens legis that they created, that you run around mistakenly thinking that you are, or claiming the stupid fucking name, which is a mistake. Okay? So entire good faith is required between debtor and creditor and sureties. So you're the creditor and you're the surety, and we know who the debtor is now, is the United States. It's the all caps ens legis entity that has an account number with the Social Security Administration, which is really issued by the IMF under the Economic Stabilization Act.
So how do you prove bad faith, though?
By not declaring that you were engaged in good faith. Okay?
So
In
I have-
maritime admiralty, they always presume and assume what benefits them. And what benefits them is that you operated in bad faith.
Right.
That's why you got to state your intent. And if a creditor does any act affecting the surety, now remember, they're alleging to be the creditor, or if he omits to do any act of duty, which he is required to do by the surety. This is such an important statement here. The debtor cannot compel the creditor to do shit. But if you come in the capacity of surety, you can tell the creditor what to do. And you're going to tell the creditor as surety in a written form, sue the motherfucking debtor. Sue the United States. Sue the Treasury. And why won't they do that? Because they were already paid by the Treasury. Or otherwise bound to do. And that act or omission may prove injurious. May prove injurious. Doesn't have to be injurious in that moment in time, but may prove injurious to the surety. or if a creditor enters into any stipulation, new agreement, parole contract with the debtor. Well, here's the problem. The creditor cannot communicate with the debtor without the express written consent of the surety. Unknown to the surety and inconsistent with the terms of the original contract, the surety may set up such act, omission, or stipulation as a defense to any suit brought against him.
Bad faith.
So look, when they call you and say, hey, you're the debtor, and you say, yeah, okay, I'm the debtor. I need some time. I don't get another paycheck for another week. I got a couple $100. Can you extend my payment? And I'll give you a little down in earnest funds for a promised performance in the future. And they go, yeah. The second they do that, you write them a surety. Go, did you just fucking negotiate a new deal with the debtor without fucking communicating with the surety first? Yep. Okay. Well, I'm now exonerated, motherfuckers. Now you're going to remove the collateral security, lien, and interest you had in the house, the boat, the plane, the train, the hookers, the midget strippers, whatever it is that you had pledged as collateral security.
But wouldn't that be a plea deal? The same as a plea deal?
No, we're talking apples and oranges here. Now listen, in a court of law or equity, that's either venue. That's an Article 3 venue or an Article 1, Clause 8 venue. All right? Or a Article 4 venue, military tribunal. So that if a creditor stipulates with his debtor in a binding manner, in other words, giving them an extension of time to pay their debt, upon a sufficient consideration to give further time for payment without the consent of the surety, the latter surety will be thereby discharged. If the arrangement might be injurious to him, might be. It doesn't even have to be. Right. It just could be in the future. Mere delay on the part of the creditor, at least if some other equity does not intervene unaccompanied in the negative, because equity always acts in the negative. That's why judges speak with dispositive statements. And it took me years to figure this out. The motherfuckers were giving me remedies all the time. I was fucking chewing their ass. And I just wanted them to agree with me. And what I didn't realize is they were agreeing with me. They were just doing it in dispositive statements, and I couldn't wrap my fucking head around it. With any valid contract for such delay will not, in the negative, amount to laches. What is laches? If you don't do something timely, laches occurs, right? Now, how much time passes without lawsuit, no matter how much time passes without lawsuit, you are still the surety. So as to discharge the surety for the creditor is under no obligation to press the principal. In this case, the principal is the principal debtor for payment. Okay? Until the surety tells the alleged creditor, hey, go sue the debtor, the surety's still on the hook. However, sureties are not obliged to wait for their principal, in this case, it's a principal creditor, to bring suit, but are entitled to come into a court of equity after a debt has become due and compel the debtor to exonerate them from their liability by paying the debt. You're compelling the United States, hey, come take care of this.
Where are you getting this from?
Gibson Suits and Chancery.
Gibson Suits and Chancery.
Yeah, subsection 962. Read that whole fucking book, and the juice and the jewel was 962. If a surety requests the creditor to sue forthwith, if you as the surety tell the principal creditor to sue the principal debtor forthwith, stating that you will no longer be liable, stating that he will consider himself no longer bound as surety if the creditor fails to do so. You give him 31 days or 30 days or 21 days to sue the debtor. If they don't sue the debtor, guess what? You just created a self-authenticating, self-executing contract saying that you will no longer allow yourself to be surety or the assets you pledged. He will be discharged by the creditor's failure to sue. If his principal was solvent when the notice was given but becomes insolvent after the expiration of the time probably required to prosecute the suit to judgment if it had been promptly instituted as requested. Within 72 hours of getting your automobile, you need to tell the fucking bank, sue the debtor. Sue the debtor. You need to write them as surety. I, Derek, as surety, am compelling you to sue the debtor. They're not going to sue the debtor. Why? Because they already got paid from the Treasury. You know how asinine it'd look if they sued the fucking Treasury? When the Treasury is going to pull up their books and go, look, we issued the fucking credits to your institution.
So when you sue the debtor, you're actually suing the Treasury because the debtor is on behalf.
Yes, that's the United States. That's where everything is. That's where the funds are discharged. That's the significance of 31 CFR 357.
The debtor is your all caps name, right? Which is,
it's not mine. It belongs to the United States.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I really have use.
You're the authorized representative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got you.
Attorney in fact, holder in due course. In a commercial sense, I would be the what do they call it?
Well, the surety is you. The
entitlement holder in commercial terms.
The surety is you in that scenario, your body, right? And then the debtor is the all caps name.
The surety is my promise of performance in the future of my precious value time commodity, which is my sweat equity.
Through your body. Right, and your body is the only one that can produce that. So they hold your body, right, as surety for the debtor, which is the all caps name, which is the presumed creditor.
Let me ask you this: is the surety primarily liable or secondarily liable?
I don't know.
Secondarily liable. That's why the principal creditor never goes after the debtor because they're under no obligation to, because you are a guarantee they're going to get paid as surety.
You're like the cosigner, correct? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Same thing on a traffic ticket too.
Right. Yeah.
Now remember when we were talking about elements of fraud earlier, these are the elements for exoneration. And listen close, because there's actually 7 of them. First, elements to exonerate, subsection 963, Henry R. Gibson suits in Chancery. Frame and form of bill. It's a bill. It's not a complaint. It's not a claim. It's a bill for exoneration. That's number 1. It's a bill for exoneration of surety.
Right, because if you pay it, then
that's the header of your document.
Right, so if you pay it, you're exonerated.
No, if you pay, now you fill the roles of the creditor, and now you're entitled to all rights, titles, interest, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general intangibles, chattel securities, trust residuals, rents, profits, proceeds, futures, and annuities, trust residuals, and trust residue.
So is that in effect exoneration?
What I'm talking to you about now is exoneration, which you just mentioned is where you pay, and therefore you put yourself in the role of creditor, and you assume all rights, titles, and interests that they may have been entitled to.
Right. That's what I'm asking, right? So
we're talking about exoneration right now, and the 7 elements that must be proved on a bill for exoneration of sureties.
Hey, continue, my bad.
Okay, number 1. Number 2, because the first one is it has to be bill for exoneration of sureties. That's the header of your document. Number 2, the fact of suretyship and how arising. How did you become the surety? I signed the paperwork. I am not the debtor. Name holder. Okay? I am not the debtor. The name holder is the United States. All right? Number 3, the solvency of the principal debtor when the right of action on the obligation occurred. Well, did you fill out that credit application? Did they come back and say, congratulations, you're approved? So we know that the debtor was solvent at some point. Right?
Right.
Number 4, that after such right occurred, and while the principal was solvent, complainant notified the creditor to bring suit at once on said obligation, or he, the complainant, all right, the one bringing the bill for exoneration of sureties, the surety is now the moving party, the movant, the claimant, would stand as surety no longer. You have to do equity, give notice to the creditor to demand he bring suit, or you will no longer stand as surety. Okay? That's an ultimatum. That's a self-authenticating, self-executing contract. Your demanding that they perform as trustees. And when they fail to perform as trustees, they carry the primary active degree of fault for dereliction of duty. Number 5, that after such notice, the creditor failed to sue in a reasonable time, statement of interest of the notice and failure. So you're doing a private administrative process where you're doing notice and opportunity, notice fault, notice of default, notice of confession and judgment. 6, that in the interim between such notice and the bringing of suit by creditor against the principal debtor on said obligation, the principal debtor became insolvent, and 7, should pray that said creditor's suit be enjoined and surety discharged from liability on said obligation. It's that fucking simple. It works on credit cards. It works on house payments. It works on car notes. It works on everything.
Well, I mean,
now that's just exoneration.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read that over like a couple of times. I'm gonna download this replay and upload it to my YouTube. So you guys want to come back and get a replay, because this was filled with information. Right.
I appreciate you guys bringing your knowledge, and Derek lives, breathes this, and I'm following along when I can, and I love it when he does his lives. It's just filled with so much information. I appreciate him and Bearded and you, Mr. Difficult, for...
Yo, so yeah, whenever I'm on, man, like whenever you're on, bro, like you're always welcome. But I gotta catch some Z's, my people.
Have a blessed night, you guys. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, man. Hey, Derek, thank you, man, for coming on, man.
Hey, no worries. Yeah, I saw Bearded on here, and I was like, I'm gonna shoot the shit with you guys. So
yeah, if you see me live, come on, man. Let's chop it up.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I got a class coming up in 2 weeks, and I'm going to show people how to destroy fucking bogus bullshit warrants, which are really capiouses for due process violations. And you can set them aside, you can quash them, you can do all kinds of fun stuff. So
go down to the law library and read up on warrants.
Yep. Well, there's a difference between warrants and capiouses. So, but all right, guys, we'll talk soon.
Capiouses, right? All right, brother.